Salutare! Bine ați venit la lansarea numărului 96 al Today Software Magazine. Astăzi v-am pregătit o serie de prezentări, aș zice eu, destul de interesante și vă propun să trecem printre ele. Domeniul principal ales luna aceasta este cyber security. Din păcate am avut, înainte de începe, îmi cer scuze, am avut niște probleme tehnice și din cauza aceasta a trebuit practic să anulăm transmisia live de pe Facebook. S-a uitat o parolă, printre altele. Bun. Haideți să vedem ce vom avea astăzi pe agenda și, de asemenea, înainte de a începe, vă reamintesc că orice întrebare aveți o puteți scrie ori pe chat, ori pe Twitter. Bun. Vom începe cu o introducere din partea lui Vasile Dorca, Head of Group of Cyber Security de la Betfair, după care vom continua cu... Okay, so sorry, I need to switch to English because I just remember we are supposed to speak in English. Sorry. We'll talk in English because we'll have some special guests today from outside, from Spain, I guess. So the first presentation will be from Joao Morais, leverage security with a bug bounty. We'll see what is to create a bug bounty, how company can use this idea of giving prizes to people to find issues in their applications. Next, we'll talk about security, and we'll talk about from local to security by design, secure coding, vulnerability management from Călin. And then Doru Șupeală will talk about why it's important to go to the office and why innovation is harder to achieve during these days. We'll continue then with another security presentation, this time about personal data and how this personal data can be a currency for different services, and why should think twice if you accept a cookie alert, for example. Then we are getting to the finish, so we'll talk about learning management system, why this is needed, from Vlad But. And at the end, if we'll still have time, I'll try to show you the last part of a series of 3 articles where we talk about how we can create games. So that will be all the presentation, and then after, well, we'll not have a break, but after the presentations, we'll talk with our guest about what is cybersecurity. So we'll talk with Călin, who's cyber security architect at Entity Data. We'll talk from Betfair with Annette Stoica, security trainer, and Joao Morais, security testing lead. And also Ciprian Sorlea, CTO from NoLogic. Probably you know Ciprian from other events from TSM. So mainly this is it for today. Thank you to our partners, and now we'll try to call Vasile Dorca. Let me try. So there's a problem with the online event. We'll have to do all the stuff. So okay. So let's try to call Vasile. Hi Vasile, let me see can you start your camera? Okay. You can hear me? Okay, that's a Skype issue this time. All this. Da. Just a second. Okay, one second to fix the audio. Let's see which microphone do I have. Unu, doi. Sigur nu mă auzi? Okay. Can you start without hearing me? Eu te aud. Tu mă auzi? Okay. Okay. Just a second. Just o secundă doar să... doar o secundă. Să rezolvăm aici. Ok. Ok. Ne auzi, Vasile? Ok. Putem începe. Yes, please start.
I let our colleagues Annette and Joao to give their presentation. So Betfair Romania, as you might know, is part of a bigger corporation which is called Flutter Entertainment, and Flutter has just gone through another merger, actually with the Stars Group. And now we became like the biggest online gambling and gaming company in the world, with brands across the globe. You might have heard about PokerStars. We also have other brands within Europe called Betfair, Paddy Power, Sky Betting and Gaming, but also in the US, where we have brands like the FoxBet and FanDuel, and in Australia, brands like Sportsbet or BetEasy. So around the globe, we are around 14,000 employees. Our revenue last year was over 4 billion euros. Actually, it was 4.5 billion euros. And then we have a customer base of 13 million around the globe. Betfair Romania as an office is based in Cluj. In Cluj, we have over 950 people, mainly doing software development, so technology, data, cybersecurity, but also outside technology areas like commercial operations, procurement, and others. As I said, today we focus on cybersecurity. Basically, our cybersecurity function has been started to be built in 2010, where we started a security program, and we got into this place of maturity today, where we have around Europe over 100 employees only doing cybersecurity. Annette and Joao, they are both part of this team. and I will let them then talk about their programs. Annette obviously will be part of the panel at the end, so feel free to put questions around her article. She was writing around phishing, basically how to run effectively a phishing campaign in cybersecurity, and Joao obviously will now talk about a bug bounty program. So not sure how many of you have heard about that, but bug bounty program actually is a program where you invite external experts, at least from the beginning, developers, cybersecurity researchers, to review your websites and scan it, for vulnerabilities. And in case you find something, you get rewarded from the company. Big companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon, they all do like that. They have like an open bug bounty program where many people make a lot of money out of it. So, but I don't spoil too much of the surprise. I will now leave Joao to give you more details about the bug bounty program. Thank you, Ovidiu, for inviting me again and hosting the event.
Thank you, Vasile. We are glad you are with us. And are you using this bug bounty program even for the product developed in Cluj? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so basically, for everybody. So now where the program has been closed initially only to few people around the globe, now we open it to everybody. So everybody who can test our websites, mainly the .com websites, the online betting and gaming websites, they are happy to do that to our program.
Oh, sounds great. I clicked the link from the article, and I saw there are some prices like 2,000 euros or dollars, something like this.
Exactly.
Nice. So just to find a simple issue or something.
Depending how big the issue is, the bigger the price. So like if you find a big issue, then you get a bigger price. If you find a smaller one, then the price is actually proportional, I'd say.
Okay.
And there are terms and conditions to that, but you can read more about that in the article, and Joao will definitely give you more details.
I see. Thank you. So let's then connect with Joao. Thank you, Vasile. Thank you very much.
No problem. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
And now let's try to connect with Joao. I hope I'm pronouncing the name good. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Joao. How are you?
Hi, Ovidiu.
It's Joao?
It's Joao.
Joao. Okay, so
Yeah.
Joao. Okay, sorry for my non-good pronunciation. Okay, so...
I know it's difficult. No worries.
Great. So, Joao, you have like 10-15 minutes. Let me know when you want to change the slides.
Okay. So, can I start?
Yes,
we're going live right now.
Okay. Yes.
So, my name is Joao Morais. As you said, I'm a penetration tester for Paddy Power Betfair, the PPB that you'll see everywhere. First of all, thank you for attending. I'm really happy to be here and be able to share a little bit about our bug bounty and also some general knowledge on bug bounties. We can move on to the next slide, please. There is some delay. Sorry.
Yes, so you should. I'm not sure what you can see. Maybe you can see this screen. No, not too.
Just.
Okay, so I changed the screen. It's on the overview slide.
Just trying to find. Okay, now I can see.
Yeah, there is a delay with the YouTube in general. With all the live transmission have a delay.
It makes sense. So first of all, I'll be trying to clarify what is a bug bounty. Then our roadmap, the decisions we took, and since 2018 when it started until today, and then the biggest challenges and achievements, sort of retrospective through all of this. So we can move on to the next slide. What is a bug bounty? So for me, it's basically the communication process. So we'll be defining a process for security researchers to safely and responsibly disclose your vulnerabilities. So if they do find something vulnerable in your applications or your infrastructure, they have a process, they have rules that they know which they need to follow to be able to talk with you. And also you will have that process for the internal communication. You will know how to speak with your teams and how to get those issues fixed as soon as possible. When you have a bug bounty, the biggest reward is that you'll be able to attract experienced security researchers. So if you're paying good bug bounties, you can, you have at your disposal an unlimited set of skills, of human resources with different backgrounds, and they will help you to keep your infrastructure and your applications more secure. So it's very good in general. We can go to the next slide. I have an image where you're probably thinking, well, this is great. This is the best thing ever. This will get your security 100%. Well, not so fast. So this will be another layer of security. You have to think about this as a tool, right? As another control that will highlight some things that are slipping to all your other controls. But you must always keep in mind that this will not do all the security for you. You need to be at a very good level of security before you launch a bug bounty. Because imagine that you get 50 reports in a week. How will you handle 50 reports? Do you have enough trained staff to deal with this? Do you fix all of this so fast and all their other work? And imagine that you run out of budget, for instance. So what will you do? Will you stop your bug bounty? So there are a lot of problems. If you go to the next slide, it's just an image as well, just my idea of what you don't want. So you don't want to be like this. You don't want to be screaming in panic because you lost control of the bug bounty. You want to be in control all the time, and for that you need to start small, and especially before you launch, you need to be in a very secure and a very mature level of security. That's basically the message here. Don't go with this if you're not comfortable enough. So let's move on to the next slide. So consider that you need a big team, a skilled team. You'll need time, resources, money if you want to pay bounties. When we started to paying bounties since the beginning. We wanted to attract the best researchers. So we started with bounties from the beginning. And as a platform, we chose to go with HackerOne. You can see down there, the hackerone.com. It's an external company that provides several services and a platform where we can communicate with the researchers. We can publish our rules of engagement, all of our rules for our program, our bounties, etc. And we can pay and all of that. They also give support to make sure that we keep the program ongoing and we don't lose control. But there are other options you might take. We chose to go with HackerOne. I think it's the best well-known platform in the world for bug bounties. And we started with a private program. So there is a misconception that the public program will disclose your vulnerabilities to the public. That's not what happens, okay? So when the bug bounty is public, it means that everyone can participate. You, Ovidio, you can participate. Our bug bounty is public now, okay? So, but when it's private, the difference is you need an invite. So we would need to invite you and no one would see this page. This would be completely private. If you went to this URL, you would get asked for credentials. You see they're launched on May 2020, but that's because we went public in May 2020, although we launched the program privately in 2018, in February. So more than 2 years now. We started with a very small scope, only our more mature components, because we wanted to control, and that's always the goal, control the amount of reports you'll get, because you want to handle them in a proper way and keep your researchers satisfied. You need to answer them in a reasonable time. So we started with a small scope and we went increasing. In your policy, you can also block some vulnerabilities. You can say that you don't want them. You can put very restrictions. We started with a restrictive policy and we keep those restrictions, almost all of them until today. Maybe we open it up in the future, but for now, we didn't change it that much. And the self-managed and managed program. So when it's a self-managed, you get all the reports. When it's managed, you have a third party that is doing the first line of the triage. And that's what happens now. Although we started as self-managed and very small, we started inviting more people. We started with 20. And before going public, we had over 700 researchers working, or at least invited. And also the scope. We started with a couple of applications, and now we have almost everything in scope for our main sites. So we chose to go in a managed program right before launching to public, because this way they can help us out filtering a lot of reports, and we only get valid reports. Okay, so that's basically it. You can go to this page and see our policy, our rules, our bounties if you want. And we can move on to the last slide.
It is the biggest challenges and achievement. That's okay?
Yes,
okay.
That's the biggest one. The last one.
Okay, great.
So in that slide, just some reflection on what went well. I think everything went well. Because we started small and we had support, external support advising us. Communication is the key, collaboration, because if you lose collaboration with your internal teams, you won't be able to get things fixed, but you can't be always pushing internal teams. I mean, development and infrastructure, they have their own work. So they have to be able to fit in security within all the other work. So prioritization is very important, communication, and also the external piece, because of course you want to keep your researchers, you want to keep that communication going, because otherwise they will stop working in this program and they will move on to a different one. So we want to keep on attracting researchers, new researchers, the best researchers. You can increase bounties, you can do some changes in your program to keep it attractive. And then you can also do a lot of automation. We try to automate as much as we can so that we don't have repetitive manual tasks, and also integration. We started to integrate the information from the bug bounty and provide it to other teams in security, for instance, risk management. And let's say I can track the task of a development team. If it's a fix, I can go to their plan and see how that task is going, if it's on progress, if it is in backlog, and I can correlate with the original issue in the bug bounty. So all this sort of integration will help you to bring more value to all your security posture. So yeah, just to finish that punchline there, find the security bugs. That's our invitation to public in general. We'll be sharing that line in our social media pretty soon, in a couple of weeks. And yeah, you can find more in the article, of course. And if you have some questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, you got a great presentation. Okay, my camera don't want to work now. Let's see. No. Okay, so you cannot see me. One question: how many bugs do you receive? Are you expecting at least to receive when you got so many people, public bug hunted? Can you got a lot of them, and there is an external company who's doing some triage, or everything goes to you?
No, so before we launched public, we hired this service from HackerOne, and they are doing that triage for us. In the first weeks, I can't precise, I think it was more than 100 reports. and they would triage it, see if they comply with our policy. If they don't comply, they would just, reject it. And they will also check if they are duplicates. So if some other researcher already found that vulnerability, because we only pay once, right? We will not pay for every time the same vulnerability is reported. So they are doing that for us. Yeah, and it's a great help for sure, especially when you launch to public.
Agree. And have you done this before, or this is the first time when you create this bug bounty program?
We started the first time in February 2018.
Oh, okay.
And then we started growing slowly until now. But it's the same program, but with much more people and much more scope, let's say like that.
And I'm just curious, you mentioned in the article that you are using, for example, some researcher. You invite initially like 20 researchers
Yes.
To join and try to find out the issues. When you open to the public, you got a lot of smaller defects, or you got, what's the difference between the researchers searching for bugs and regular people all around the world?
Yes, it's a big difference, because we were in HackerOne, you can choose. So the researchers that are registered, they have a score based on their previous work. So you can choose the best of them, the guys with the bigger score. So we were working with some of the best guys in their platform. And when we opened to public, you got a lot of numbers. So the quantity is much bigger, but the quality it lowers a little bit. That's natural. So yeah, that's part of that's how it works. You'll get more quantity, a little less quality. But in the end, it will be beneficial because you'll have a lot of more people working. And we are in a more mature level at this point. We fixed a lot of things in the last 2 years.
And one more question. Also, the audience can ask question on the chat window or on Twitter. Let's see if we got anything on Twitter. One more question. So, what is the system target? Is your public, I don't know, website, or it's you create some special virtual machines where people can try to hack?
No. They tried to hack our production sites,
really?
Our production infrastructure. Yes, it's a live thing.
Whoa. Yeah. Well, you take some risk there, I guess.
Yes, there is some risk implied. We put rules in our policy trying to ask people to not cause any impact. Although our applications are resilient, we are very confident in their resilience, but we also ask them to not use automated scanners that not cause a lot of heavy network loads, right? To try to save bandwidth as much as possible, to not cause any impact. But yes, it's on our production environment.
Interesting. I was thinking that something else, some beta or something. Okay. Yeah, sounds great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joao. Yeah, our applause is. Sorry, we don't have real audience here with me, but I'm sure everyone enjoyed your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. Bye. Okay. And now we'll move to our next presentation, which is Ilici Călin. Let's call Călin. And hello?
Hello.
Hi, Călin. If you enable your camera, I'm not sure if I can see you. I can hear you for sure.
Yes, and let's see if you can see me.
Okay, great. Yes.
Okay, great.
Looks great. So, Călin, you have 10 minutes and to talk about the digital twin. It was a very nice article. Thank you. And just let me know when you want to change the slides. So right now you are on the first slide with the title.
Okay. All right, I can see that. Yeah, there is this. I can't hear you anymore.
Well, there is a delay.
Yeah, okay.
Ignore the live presentation, just go with the Skype one and let me know when to change the slide.
All right, all right. Hello, everybody. My name is Călin. I'm a PLM consultant for Accenture Romania. And we'll be talking for the next 10 minutes or so about digital twin. And hopefully by the end of my presentation, you'll have a better understanding on the subject. I'll move to the next one, please.
Yes.
Okay. So the article as well as my presentation today is structured on 4 points. I look back at where, how, and when digital twin started. An answer to the question, why digital twin now? Then we'll have a look at the market, the players, and some examples of digital twins from various industries. And finally, we'll try to anticipate what's next for the digital twin.
I'll
to
move
next
to the
one,
next
please.
one. Yes, a look back, yes.
Yeah. So the digital twin concept is not new. In fact, it's been around for more than 15 years now, because NASA has started using the twinning ideas for their space program in the 60s. And it is exactly this this twin model on back on the Earth that allowed the ground engineers to explore possible solutions to save the crew of Apollo 13 in early 1970. Many years later, Michael Greaves, Florida Institute of Technology, first applied the digital twin concept in manufacturing, and he coined the term in 2002 during a presentation at the University of Michigan. While the terminology around the digital twin has changed over the years, the basic concept of creating digital and physical as one entity has remained the same since its emergence. It's exactly this concept of periodic or continuous twinning of the digital to the physical and physical to the digital. That is the condition that separates virtual prototyping and model-based engineering or digital mockups from a digital twin. We have our best definition, because there are many out there, but our best definition would be that the digital twin is a virtual dynamic representation of a process, a product, or a service, defined as an intelligent model that can exchange data bidirectionally with the real world in order to predict, monitor, optimize the performance of the physical twin. Next one, please.
Yes, digital. Why digital
why
twin
digital
now?
twin now? So why digital twin now? We'll try to answer that. So, looking at the digital twin core, we can find the information flow. We need to collect data from the physical twin and send it back. The more data we collect, the wealthier data we get, the more insights we get. So we need all these sensors that used to be expensive, but nowadays IoT sensors prices dropped with at least of an order of magnitude. Now imagine you have the sensors and the data, but that data might be too much to handle, so we need some sort of local processing, and hence the edge computing. In the latest years, the advancements in edge computing enables us to compute data in a real-time manner and get that data instantly from the sensors or devices. We still have to deal with that data. We still have that big data to transmit over, and here comes in play the 5G, ZigBee, other large bandwidth data transmittal technologies. They are here now, and we can get that data back and forth between virtual and physical worlds. Ultimately, nowadays, we have the data processing capabilities, the analytics tools, the machine learning algorithms, the processing power to analyze, structure, understand, and use that data. So to conclude, to answer the question, now we have a good level of maturity for all the underlying technologies that support and enable digital twins. A video next one, please.
Yes.
So in the last years, almost all major technology vendors have launched digital twin offerings, Accenture being one of them. We at Accenture have strong ties with the biggest software providers in the field, such as Siemens, Dassault Systems, or PTC, who provide well-developed platforms that are able to support the development of a digital twin. You can find in the article references to their websites or blogs and to better understand their offerings as well as their vision on digital twins. A video, let's move on to examples. If you could please play the first image.
Yes, I'm not sure if they will get the sound, but
there is no need for sound.
Okay.
I can talk over.
Okay, let me. Okay, yes,
it will. Yeah, I can save me a few thousand words. So a good example that is coming from the French software company that is providing Dassault System, that is providing a 3D experience platform, is that they finished building a digital twin of Singapore, which is dubbed as a 3D experience city. Having such a digital twin of a city brings. You've stopped the video. Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
That's fine. Brings the benefits such as allowing city planners to optimize energy consumption, shop owners to adapt their opening hours depending on different public events like concerts, football matches, and so on, or even fine-tune the traffic light systems. For example, they can simulate how a building placement will influence or create new wind tunnels in the city, or how that building will be heated by the sun and determine thus the comfort of the inhabitants. All that can be done before actually erecting the building. In addition to the usual map and terrain data, the platform incorporates real-time traffic, demographic, and climate information, giving planners the ability to engage in virtual experimentation with what-if scenarios. I encourage you to learn about more 3D experience city. That's a keyword that you can search on Google, and there are many examples on YouTube as well. And this is not only an animation, that's a live model that gets data and sends data to the city. One interesting fact is the citizens of Singapore can use it and do their traffic analysis of their own, and to see where would be the best apartment to buy, and all that the stuff. In healthcare, I found a very interesting example coming from Philips that is working to build biophysical models, and it is actually using own patients' data. Using that digital twin, a physician can connect the data to similar cases and determine which therapy will have the best outcome for the patient. Surgeons can explore different approaches and explore different procedures and find the best results. Next one, please, Ovidiu.
Yes.
Next slide, please.
Yes, I changed it. Digital twin example production line.
Okay. In the production lines, another good example is coming from Unilever that now has 8 manufacturing facilities that have deployed the digital twins. Their biggest challenge was to reduce the number of false alarms or alerts that are coming from the machines and then require the intervention of the human operator. And they've reduced that by 90%, which is huge. In automotive area, also in production, we have a digital twin coming from Maserati that has built the Ghibli model 100% true to the original, down to the last screw and rivet. That played a huge role in the development of the car, and that they were able to reduce the costs and the development time by 30%. You can find many other examples in in the article as well as on the web. I hope by the end of our presentation you'll be able to distinguish what is actually a digital twin from all those examples. Please do the next one, please, Ovidiu.
Yes, done.
So, what's next for digital twin? I'm using this graph from Gartner that is being released yearly. It is called Hype Cycle for Emerging Technologies, and we can see that digital twin now is in the area named peak of inflated expectations. That means that early publicity has produced a number of success stories. Often these success stories are accompanied by failures. Some companies take action, many do not take action. Digital twin has reached its maximum expectation level, so everybody, that hype is there, is on the top, but hasn't yet delivered to that level. Surely some could argue that digital twin has reached its hype peak and we could be or will be entering soon into the era of disappointment, but we might as well spend up to 10 years on this peak plateau waiting for other technologies like 5G, IoT, digital factories, and so on to reach maturity and to be adopted on a larger scale. And the final one, please, Ovidiu, that would be the single takeaway that I'd be happy to get from my story is to have a better understanding of the concept. I will say it again: digital twin must have two components: the physical asset, process, or service, and its digital representation. And that the most important characteristic is that there is a flow of information between them, and the twins influence each other. We at Accenture plan to continue with a series of papers about digital twin, and we'll surely touch on more technical aspects of it. So stay tuned. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask.
Okay, let's see. Let me check. So I remember you can add your question on Twitter if you mention today's of Mag, or even on the live streaming on YouTube. Okay, Călin, how much processing power do you need to create your digital twin for a city? I mean, looks huge considering all the factors that can be there.
Yeah, I was wondering myself that.
Okay.
Yes, digital twins can have many scales, and of course the scale of a city is huge. I do not have the details. I know that it was a national institute in Singapore that have started this initiative. They wanted to have a better understanding because, as you know, Singapore is an island, is a city-state island, and they need to systemize and to control more aspects of the city. They first started with only with one small neighborhood, and they enlarged from that. But exactly where are they now, I can't tell you.
And one more question. I'm curious, is there any special software or everyone is creating it for case by case?
So there are these platforms. We mainly focus on the PLM platforms that are coming from Siemens, Dassault Systems, or PTC. Many companies. I think I can safely say that 95% of the companies that are using PLM have one of these. These platforms are actually what they are called. They are the platforms, and they allow the development of such digital twin. They can take the data in, they can take the data out, they can present the data in such a manner. They can use the 3D designs data, interact with that, control it, and so on. So the platform is there. If we're talking about Singapore, a lot of custom development has been made to support such a city, because that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest digital twin that is supported by one of these platforms.
And can digital twins model interact between them?
Between them, yes. Yeah, that's that's one of the aspects that we plan to talk in the future, as well as the digital triplets. That would be basically a digital twin for each physical object. So imagine that you have a car and you have a digital twin of each car, not of that model of the car. You have a digital twin of each car. You get the data from that car. You get customized data based on the driving's behavior and traffic and city and populations and so on.
Sounds really interesting domain, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see more details on this, because it's really interesting. And I saw in the article there are a lot of industries we got this concept working, from healthcare, as you mentioned, to automotive and so on.
Yeah, and especially that's the thing, that it is creating new business patterns and new business models. There is an example in the article about services, and that's great. That company has not been focused lately on the product itself, but on the services that product is bringing.
Okay, and we got a question from Radu Orghidan. He's head of AI at Endava So his question is, can Călin share an example of a successful use case for a digital twin from his own experience? And how did you manage to convince the customer to get into this experience? I'm not sure if it's applying, but...
The thing is that you do not have to convince the customer to get into the digital twin. Digital twin is like somewhere in the higher level, where you have everything established, you have your platform running, you have everybody collaborating on that, you have the infrastructure as well, and that's why the article was this bit with the digital twin now, because this is one of these buzzwords that everybody is talking about, digital twin. But digital twin must have a solid foundation in that company. Most of the project that I've been involved was about laying that foundation, and digital twin comes as a consequence of that foundation. When they have all the data in place, all the information flow, all the processes, they will feel the need to have such a digital twin. If we are talking about production, if we are talking about services or something else, that's a little bit different. But if they have a manufacturing facility, at least one, they will feel the need to create that digital twin.
I see. And yeah, I think that's a good answer. Thank you, Călin. And I'm looking forward to get a real successful story developed by you guys here from Cluj on digital twin. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. And,
you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. If Radu has more questions, he can follow up with you on email. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ovidiu. Bye.
Bye. Good, and our next presentation will be from Cătălin Pătrașcu. Let's try to connect with Cătălin. Okay.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, Cătălin.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. And I hope we'll work the changing the slides. You are the first one who's doing this. Okay. You got 10-15 minutes for the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. So I hope you can see my slides.
Yes, can be seen. Yes.
Good. So my name is Călin. I'm working for Interdata Romania, and today we will discuss about some security good practices, do's and don'ts, basically for secure coding. Just before that, I will share some things about me. So I'm currently working for Interdata Romania. I work also for the Romanian National CSIRT. I work in the private sector in a SOC company, SecureWars, and I have a military background. Work for a military cert, and basically I started my career and IT journey in the military system. Okay, so you might be right if you are thinking that lately we have so many security experts everywhere, but I think we have to get used with that, because security is a thing right now, and of course we have a shortage in talents on the market. Very briefly about Interdata Romania. So first about the entity data, which is the group from which Interdata Romania is part of. It's a top 10 global business IT services provider. Interdata Romania has presence in many cities in Romania. You can see Cluj, Napoca, Sibiu, Brașov, Bucharest, Iași, Timișoara, and so on. Novi Sad also in Serbia. So we have a good coverage. And getting back to our subject today, why I choose to give you this talk, because of course everything right now or almost everything is depending on software, so our lives are starting to depend on software, and how secure and how reliable is the software and the application we are using. So yes, as a security developer, you can change the world, and you can also make the world a safer place. And this is not just big words; it's the reality nowadays. Okay, so what can you expect from my presentation? Is just basic hints, basic examples of how to do secure coding. The list is not exhaustive. Of course, I'm aware that I'm not catching everything here, but I try to compile just at least the basic stuff, at least the principles. So feel free to ask questions now or after the presentation and so on. Good. Let's start with the first one, maybe, input validation. Okay, I'm sure that everybody heard about security vulnerabilities like SQL injection or injection in general. So this kind of stuff we are taking for a long time, and but it's not the only security vulnerability that can be mitigated by input validation. So what is input validation about? It's about validating the data that we are processing in an application. Okay, so we can talk about parameters, we can talk about URLs, cookie names, values, and so on. And of course, we have to pay attention to the type of characters that we are accepting in the fields. You can see here some examples like null bytes, null line characters, // directory traversal, and so on. But in general, it's a good approach to try to validate the input you are getting in an application from the user, from another system, from another application, and so on. Good. Why to do that? Yes, you can see one reason is that some people are playing with their car license plates, and they are trying. I believe they are trying to delete the database from the police, but you know that it was another example. It was last year or maybe 2 years. It was a political example in Romania, but this one is a technical example of
that might even work. That might work at some point.
Yeah, could be. I don't know. I found it on internet.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Because we talk about validating input, it's also important to validate output, of course. It's also a good idea to validate output when you have multiple integrated systems that depends on each other and so on. So it should be, let's say, we should sanitize all outputs of, let's say, untrusted data operating system commands or untrusted data to queries for, I don't know, SQL, XML, LDAP, and so on. So not only input validation, but also output validation, it's important. Good. Another basic stuff would be authentication and password management. Even if it is basic stuff, it can be tricky because I saw, and you can see in the news and in the breach news, a lot of bad implementations. So one thing that we need to be very careful is to how to handle credentials in our web applications. I know that you might say that this is easy, but it seems that a lot of applications are still using, for example, base 64 for, they say, encryption. But base 64 is not encryption. It can be easily reversed. So this is just one example. A much bad example would be just plain text password in our web applications. And these cases can be still found in, for example, project published on GitHub and so on. Or let's say API keys can be found. Actually, many API keys can be found in GitHub, for example, for a lot of projects. And I know incidents when companies were literally deleted from the cloud. So the hackers stole their API credentials and they just deleted their virtual machines from different cloud vendors. So these kind of stuff are very basic, but are very, very important. So yeah, multi-factor authentication is also something that we should always enable and so on. But I will really want to stress that hashing is not encryption, because I saw this confusion a lot of times. Okay, and base 64 is not even hashing. Good. Because we just talked about password management, I like to give you some examples. Here I made a small research on some Wi-Fi routers on Shodan, for example. You can find a lot of things on Shodan. This is I wouldn't tell you brands, but you can easily figure it out. It's a Wi-Fi router, one specific model. You can see that we have a lot of them in Romania, over 20,000. At least this one were found on Shodan. How can we exploit something that we find in Shodan? For example, I found on Shodan that the telnet service is open for data routers. Yeah, we can just ask Google these days. It's just easier. So I just search default telnet credentials for a specific model or Wi-Fi router. And guess what? You can find them. And it works, it just works. So hacking can be so easy these days. If we don't take care of our applications, of our methodologies, of our password management policies, authentication, and so on, things can be easily hacked. Here it's obvious that we can find the default username and passwords on internet, not only for web interface, also for telnet. So over 20,000 of devices are vulnerable and exposed on the internet. So again, about password management, we should avoid putting credentials in clear text in our applications. Good. Another important thing is communication security. We have to protect the data in transit. And good advice is to use TLS or SSL, yeah, for protecting the connection. We can use TLS certificates to authenticate both sides, the server and application. And also, we might consider to supplement the TLS security by discrete encryption of sensitive files, meaning that we should try to do some encryption on an application level and not rely on TLS only, because we know that SSL interception it's a thing right now, especially in the corporate environment, and it might be a good idea for some use cases to encrypt things in application layer. Good. And also, we should apply some principles, some basic principles in security, meaning default deny and least privilege. Yeah. So it's better to decide if we give access to a person or to a process by specific permissions and not by exclusion. And of course, every process and every user should run with the least set of privileges they need to complete their job. Okay. Users can be inventive, and this is something general that we should consider. They might do things that you don't think about. Okay, and for that, there's no general rule of countermeasures, but you have to consider it. Okay. Good. Another thing we can do is to manage the risk with multiple strategies. Yeah, it's called defense in depth. Okay, so we might expect that one of our security layers will be passed or will be broken or will fall, and we have to rely on other security layers. This is just a general concept. Yeah, so I gave you an example to combine secure programming techniques with secure runtime environments. Yeah, and in security, we are already using this concept. You know, for one business, we start protection with perimeter security. We have a firewall, we have an inspection, we have an IDS. Then we move to the anti-malware or endpoint protection, and so on. So we have also external layers. But for the future, it's better to bring real security in the source, in the web application, in the applications, in the endpoints, and so on. We cannot rely on external methods and external systems like firewalls, web application firewalls, and so on. Good, and there are a lot of other general coding practices. I won't insist on each of them. But for example, we should not allow an application to pass commands to the operating system. Yeah. For example, to do command injection. Yeah. So if we have a web server running, that web server shouldn't be allowed to run a CLI command in the operating system, and so on. Also, if I have to choose from those ones, I would say that when applications, for example, must run with elevated privileges, we should try to keep it as low as possible in terms of privileges, because this situation might appear. First of all, we should make sure that we don't lost track of the elevated privileges that we may put in place, and then to make sure that they are the least needed for the purpose of the job. Okay. For web developers, I would always recommend to read OWASP top 10 and try to understand those kind of flaws and vulnerabilities. This top 10 evolved in the last years, but as you can see, some of the vulnerabilities remained in the top, the basic ones. It's always a good idea to see the big picture when you do security, and to avoid situation like in this picture. Okay. If you put a measure in place, you have to make sure that people don't have a very easy way to pass by that security measures. One last advice for developers will be to try to keep things at least as simple as they can. Okay. I saw engineers that are doing for basic stuff, they are implementing very complex things. And this will lead to security flaws in the near future. Yeah. Maybe for them, keys will mean other things also. It's a good let's say advice for IT guys. But keep it simple. Is the most valuable one. That will be all from my side. I'm waiting for your questions.
Thank you. Just a second to set up here. Okay, you can see me now. Good. So let's see if we get on live streaming or on Twitter. Nobody is asking on Twitter. I don't know why. Okay, so we saw, I mean, it's impressive that you work even in the military. And what kind of systems are you using there? I mean, are they using Windows, Linux, or what are they based there? If you can just share, no, not too much.
Of course, I can share a lot, and no worries. What I can share, I wanted. But you should expect the same. 99% of the system are the same. Maybe they are enclosed in a more durable, let's say, materials and stuff. But Windows, Linux, it's also there. So they have a few specific applications, like for encryption and so on. There are national schemes for national standards and algorithms for encryption. All the states have this kind of stuff. But other than that, the IT is the same.
Yeah, it will be interesting to have maybe one day a discussion about the national security and what can be done and what are the risks. Probably there are a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, it will be interesting, but I'm afraid I'm not the best guy to do that. Of course, I work for CERTRO, which is the Romanian National Cybersecurity Agency, but it's not for the military staff. It's just for the private institution and for the public and so on.
Okay. So, Călin, I'll stop the question because I know we'll talk with you at the panel in probably half an hour, maybe a little bit more. And I have a few more questions, but I'll let them there.
Good.
Okay? Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you also.
Thank you. Bye.
See you soon.
See you soon. Da. Yes. Okay. So, our next presentation will be from Doru. Let's see if we can find Doru. Doru is here. Okay. Hi Doru, do you want to talk in English or do you want Romanian? I'm not sure because your slides are in Romanian.
I'm sorry for those who prefer English. The presentation is prepared in Romanian. So and those who have questions could ask those questions by email and first of all translate the article.
Okay, good. Okay, let me just a second to go to your presentation. So we'll talk in Romanian or do you want in English?
Să vorbim românește,
okay.
Pentru că e mai ușor și bănuiesc că majoritatea audienței care este acum live, cel puțin pe YouTube, e formată din concetățeni de-ai noștri.
Da. One more mention, so after Doru presentation we'll continue in English, but just if there are any other.
Okay.
Okay, so bun, Doru, trecem pe română. Ai 10 minute, 15.
Mă ajut și cu slide-urile?
Am să le schimb
okay.
eu. Doar așa am vrut să spun și ok, work from home, ok. Da, te ajut și cu slide-urile, îmi zici când vrei să schimb. Gata.
E în regulă.
Am dispărut. Bun.
Perfect. Salutare tuturor. Mă bucur să fiu din nou la o lansare a revistei TSM. Sunt Doru Șupeală, managing partner la Școala Pentru Oameni Responsabili. De câțiva ani mă ocup destul de profund de ceea ce se numește employer branding și de un an de zile am început un doctorat în managementul creativității și inovației, astfel că în articolul ăsta am unit cele două teme mari care mă preocupă, pentru că mă interesează foarte tare să înțelegem și să reușim să construim în companiile de la noi un climat propice pentru creativitate și inovație și pentru că am văzut recent o mulțime de studii și oficiale ale Uniunii Europene, dar și studii locale care ne arată că suntem primii din coadă în Europa, inclusiv după țările care nu sunt în UE, la ceea ce se numește inovație. M-am gândit să scriu articolul ăsta despre contextul în care ne aflăm cu toții și care cu siguranță ne-a marcat pe toți. Să trecem la slide-ul al doilea. Haideți să ne amintim ce se întâmplă cu noi din martie încoace. Am ajuns toți să lucrăm de acasă, chiar dacă înainte nu se putea în multe organizații sau se putea, dar doar ca o excepție sau doar ca o întâmplare pentru multe alte organizații. S-a trecut foarte repede peste orice fel de problemă legislativă sau de control al autorităților și a contat, bineînțeles, siguranța oamenilor și peste noapte ne-am trezit toți că lucrăm de acasă. Eu sunt unul dintre fanii și promotorii ideii de work from home. În cursurile mele și în articolele pe care le scriu am scris și am spus de nenumărate ori că munca de acasă este o opțiune pe care în special oamenii tineri din companii o doresc, vor flexibilitate de toate felurile, dar și flexibilitate legată de locația unde își desfășoară activitatea. Pe de altă parte, acest articol și prezentarea asta s-ar putea să fie surprinzătoare, pentru că arăt și dezavantajele muncii de acasă, mai ales în relația acestui tip de muncă cu ceea ce se numește. Știți că în România inovația este la fel ca autostrăzile, vorbim extraordinar de mult despre ea, ni se pare că le facem, dar avansăm extrem de greu și rezultatele sunt foarte subțiri. Vedem acum că mulți dintre noi ne-am mutat acasă și foarte mulți avem probleme de coordonare. Mulți dintre liderii de organizații sau coordonatorii de echipe au probleme în a comunica și a verifica ceea ce fac oamenii cu care lucrează. Am făcut câteva cercetări online, sigur, nestructurate și nu au pretenție de precizie, însă cred că putem să agreem cu toții că aproape jumătate din companiile, din IT în special, se vor întoarce la birou oficial abia în 2021. Cealaltă jumătate se împarte în două. O mare parte din această jumătate preconizează întoarcerea la birou în toamnă cândva, nu se știe precis, septembrie-octombrie, iar aproximativ 10% au revenit, dar nici această revenire nu este completă, în sensul că oamenii au încă libertatea de a lucra și de acasă și nu e la birou. Un alt efect al acestei pandemii este blocarea proceselor de learning și development și anularea sau redesenarea unor beneficii. Apropo de asta, știți că există un fișier Excel care circulă pe rețelele sociale. L-am promovat și eu pe LinkedIn și pe Facebook și îl puteți găsi în postările mele. Este o adunare, o colecție de date din vreo 50 și ceva de companii IT, cele mai multe din Cluj, în care oamenii au spus ce s-a întâmplat în companiile lor și e foarte interesant pentru oricine lucrează în industrie să compare ce s-a întâmplat din punctul de vedere al relației dintre organizații și angajați în cele mai multe dintre companiile din sector. Bun. Cum arată munca noastră astăzi? Expunere prelungită la ecrane cu siguranță. Avem screen fatigue sau și mai clar zoom fatigue. Foarte mulți ne-am dat seama, ajungând să lucrăm de acasă, că nu avem cele mai bune condiții pentru a lucra de acasă. Am văzut mulți colegi de-ai mei în unele call-uri online lucrând din camera copilului, intrând online de pe un scăunel care nu era dimensionat pentru fizicul lor. Există, desigur, probleme legate de accesul simultan al mai multor membri ai familiei la conexiunea online și poate sunt momente când mai mulți au nevoie de a fi live și a avea liniște în casă. Nu prea avem disciplină și nu prea avem toate dotările necesare. Însă, ceea ce este important legat de relația cu inovația și creativitatea este că au dispărut, în primul rând, interacțiunea naturală, organică, autentică cu colegii. Avem Slack, cu siguranță, continuă să existe acolo grupurile de WhatsApp sau Slack sau Facebook în care se distribuie și bârfele, însă spontaneitatea și colaborarea informală atunci când se discută idei creative în echipe au dispărut. Discutam astăzi cu Peter Leeson online și îmi spunea, cred că cel care va inventa o aplicație ca Zoom, dar care să fie capabilă să fie spontană, să apară pe ecranul celuilalt atunci când vrei să-i spui ceva, să reușească să repare această nevoie de comunicare spontană, se va îmbogăți acea persoană. Încă nu avem această aplicație și nu avem nici aplicația care să ne arate un lucru despre care o să vorbesc un pic mai târziu. Deci, concluzia mea este că munca de acasă este cool, este foarte utilă, este necesară ca un drept pe care toți trebuie să-l avem atunci când știm ce avem de făcut și ne trebuie liniște să ne concentrăm. Însă, cred că inovația rămâne la birou, ăsta este titlul și o să vă explic în continuare de ce. Am văzut foarte multe postări pe rețelele sociale ale oamenilor din IT, prieteni de-ai mei sau cunoscuți, care spun că deja le lipsește viața de la birou, le lipsesc colegii și le lipsesc interacțiunile de acolo. Inclusiv treaba asta arată că viața noastră profesională astăzi este mult mai săracă. Bun. În articol am inventariat 5 dezavantaje majore ale muncii de acasă și sunt convins că o să-i enervez sau o să-i supăr pe mulți dintre cei care ne urmăresc, însă dacă stăm să ne gândim onest, putem să înțelegem că lucrurile astea sunt reale și impactează în mod negativ rezultatele muncii noastre, mai ales atunci când vrem să facem o muncă într-un sector creativ. Atunci când avem, știu eu, o muncă strict de producție, cu specificații foarte clare, în care toată depinde doar de noi, munca de acasă este perfectă. Însă atunci când trebuie să lucrăm la un proiect în care colaborarea este esențială, schimbul de idei, sugestiile de la ceilalți, dezvoltarea unor idei creative și a unor noi concepte este obligatorie, în acest caz distanța pe care o avem și comunicarea electronică mediată de platforme nu ne ajută foarte tare. Așadar, cele 5 dezavantaje. Munca de acasă reduce viteza comunicării și execuției de proiecte și limitează dezvoltarea profesională a oamenilor. Învățăm mult mai greu la distanță decât de la un om care e lângă noi și de la care mai putem fura o idee sau o sugestie. Al doilea lucru, munca de acasă limitează grav comunicarea și colaborarea în echipe și elimină spontaneitatea. E foarte greu. Mai suntem spontani poate pe Slack, însă pe Slack știm foarte bine că nu e neapărat o comunicare legată de proiect, ci e mai degrabă o comunicare între prieteni, se mai schimbă glume, se mai fac pronosticuri la meciuri atunci când ele se desfășoară, desigur, însă nu e neapărat legată de spontaneitatea investită în dezvoltarea unei idei creative în plan profesional. Al treilea lucru, munca de acasă reduce loialitatea față de grup și față de organizație, pentru că legăturile dintre oameni slăbesc. Distanța ne face mai străini și ne este foarte greu să avem încredere într-un om cu care vorbim printr-un ecran. Este altfel decât atunci când vorbim față în față la colțul unde se fumează sau în jurul unor cafele în bucătăria companiei. Calitatea motivației intrinseci de asemenea scade pentru că în primul rând scade ceea ce se numește mentorat și colaborare, învățare din colaborarea cu ceilalți. În al patrulea rând, munca de acasă sărăcește diversitatea, bogăția și consistența culturii organizaționale. Se fac găuri foarte mari, distanțe uriașe între departamente și între echipele care nu neapărat interacționează unele cu celelalte. Când ești în aceeași clădire și te mai vezi cu ceilalți în bucătărie sau la masă, parcă cumva comunicarea este mai bogată și se păstrează cumva coerența unei identități a organizației. Însă la distanță, de multe ori nu știm când a mai plecat un coleg din companie, de multe ori nu știm când apare un coleg nou, este foarte greu să faci inducție a unui om nou într-o echipă vorbind doar pe Zoom și treaba asta putea culturii organizaționale. Mai mult decât atât, munca de acasă, asta este partea cea mai dură, limitează creativitatea, putem să fim creativi, dar doar noi cu noi, individual, și compromite inovația remarcabilă, mai ales inovația puternică, ceea ce în unele cărți vorbim de inovație radicală sau inovație disruptivă, deci inovația care chiar produce o idee nouă remarcabilă, nu se poate întâmpla la distanță sau se întâmplă doar în condiții excepționale. Să mergem pe al 5-lea slide. Și aici am explicat de
la
ce.
inovație
Inovația
egal colaborare?
Inovația este colaborare plus comunicare, da. Este indiscutabil că pentru a colaborăm în zilele noastre și să comunicăm, nu prea mai putem să ne bazăm că apare un domn precum cel care a inventat becul și sonorizarea, da? Pentru că el se ocupa de treaba asta și era o altă epocă și alte circumstanțe, putea să facă treaba asta singur. Astăzi, pentru a avea o inovație sau a avea un proiect realmente creativ, este nevoie de o sumă de competențe și de o sumă de oameni remarcabili, extraordinar de bine pregătiți, foarte diversi ca background și profesional și educațional, astfel încât să poți să duci mai departe un proiect. Creativitatea individuală încă rezistă, dar și ea are enorm de suferit prin izolare. Orice om creativ se inspiră din mediul înconjurător. Atâta vreme cât mediul înconjurător este sărac sau cumva limitat de izolare, nu are cum să fie foarte creativ. Are nevoie de situații noi, are nevoie să trăiască tot felul de întâmplări și să vadă diverse contexte ca să poată să fie creativ, inclusiv cel care este creativ de unul singur. Mai avem un lucru pe care trebuie să-l înțelegem. Nașterea ideilor noi este un proces direct legat de spontaneitate și interacțiune. Nu mai apar ideile așa singure și de cele mai multe ori ideile noi ale unuia se fabrică pe fundația și pe structura pe care au așezat-o ceilalți într-un dialog de colaborare. La fel, diversitatea membrilor este importantă. Și hai să ne uităm la ceva de legendă. Din 1967, domnul Mehrabian de la Universitatea din California, Los Angeles, a formulat regula 7-38-55, pe care poate o știm cu toții. Comunicarea este 7% verbală, mai ales comunicarea care are și un emoțional și în echipe comunicarea trebuie să aibă și o componentă emoțională. 7% verbală, 38% este găzduită de tonul vocii, deci modul în care vorbim. Hai să zicem că pe asta o mai poate prelua Zoom, însă 55% din comunicare, în păcate Zoom ne vede o mică parte din corp și nu neapărat vedem toate corpurile colegilor noștri, mai ales ale celor care ascultă. În general vedem pe Zoom sau pe orice platformă de comunicare, vedem pe cel care vorbește și în ecrane foarte mici sau fără imagine, ca să fie banda neocupată, îi vedem pe ceilalți. Asta nu ne ajută deloc în a comunica. Bun. Mergem la slide-ul al 6-lea, Ovidiu. Aici avem câteva elemente din ceea ce se numește Team Climate Inventory, da? Inventarul factorilor ce creează climatul unei echipe. Este un instrument academic creat de cercetători britanici, Anderson și West, și ei au listat un set de 15 factori care sunt determinanți pentru climatul oricărei echipe. Nu neapărat pentru climatul creativ, dar ei sunt determinanți pentru climatul oricărei echipe și mai ales sunt obligatorii atunci când echipa vrea să fie creativă și să meargă spre inovație. Și dacă ne uităm la toți acești 6 factori pe care i-am pus aici, putem să înțelegem că toți au de suferit, se diminuează sau chiar dispar atunci când lucrăm de la distanță. Sentimentul lipsei presiunii mai îngust atunci când lucrează de acasă. Avem un grad mai mare de incertitudine în perioada asta. Frecvența și diversitatea interacțiunilor formale și informale este mult mai săracă și asta o simțim cu toții. Mult mai greu comunicăm cu colegii noștri din cauza că ne-am cam săturat de atâta ecran și nu prea putem să generăm idei și să fim colaborativi fix la ora 14 sau la ora 10 când e programat un call cu echipa. Evaluarea continuă a activității celorlalți. Asta se întâmplă spontan. Colegii într-o echipă, într-un birou, se uită unii la ceilalți și își dau sugestii în mod spontan, se încurajează sau își dau idei, ceea ce în online și pe Zoom este mult mai puțin posibil. Ideația colectivă suferă enorm, pentru că e foarte greu să construiești spontan idei pe ideile celorlalți, pentru că nu prea ai comunicare spontană. Programat, fiecare vorbește pe rând, e o disciplină într-o comunicare pe Zoom din cauza că trebuie să se înțeleagă toată lumea. Știm că sunt niște protocoale de comunicare și toate protocoalele astea, regulile astea sunt foarte bune, însă pentru creativitate și inovație nu sunt cele mai bune instrumente de a genera idei. Climatul social relaxat și inclusiv în echipă are de suferit pentru că distanța împiedică treaba asta și comunicarea informală, care este esențială pentru un climat social relaxat, dispare sau este mult mai săracă. Avem încă Slack sau grupurile informale de comunicare, însă simțim că ele ar trebui să fie dublate și de comunicarea verbală face-to-face la birou. Și climatul de înaltă performanță, care este cumva un lucru pe care îl construiesc toți membrii echipei în mod proactiv, atunci când ești alături de ceilalți și vezi cât de tare se implică, muncesc, cât de motivat lucrează, cât de entuziasmat sunt de un task nou sau de o descoperire nouă sau de un concept nou pe care l-ați definit împreună, ai și tu o mai mare motivație de a lucra. La distanță, atunci când ești doar în fața unui ecran și cu biblioteca ta de acasă și cu copiii jucându-se în sufragerie și vecinii folosind o mașină de găurit, nu-i așa, este mult mai greu să ai un climat de înaltă performanță. Ajungem la concluzii, la slide-ul 7. Cu siguranță, munca de acasă este aici ca să rămână și este un lucru foarte benefic, însă eu cred că trebuie să rămână ca opțiune pe care fiecare dintre noi să o poată lua de câte ori simte că poate să fie mai productiv de acasă sau de unde dorește, de pe un deal la munte. Pe de altă parte, munca de acasă este excelentă pentru ceea ce se cheamă muncă de rutină sau pentru specificații foarte bine determinate. Asta am de făcut, asta am de executat, pot să fac singur, n-am mare nevoie de alte ingrediente sau de ajutorul celorlalți, pot să fac treaba asta. Deci poți să faci inovație, dar inovație incrementală, la distanță, nu inovație radicală. Munca de acasă slăbește puterea relațiilor interumane și sărăcește inducția și cultura organizațiilor. Pe de altă parte, trebuie să înțelegem că inovația este produsul diversității, colaborării intense, comunicării puternice și experimentării, ceea ce se întâmplă într-un grup de oameni care este în general prezent în același loc, într-un loc foarte confortabil și, cum să spun eu, foarte prietenos. Și interacțiunea frecventă și directă este esențială în echipele creative. De aia, concluzia mea este că munca de acasă, munca se poate întâmpla acasă, cu siguranță, și e un lucru foarte bun că am câștigat treaba asta datorită acestui necaz care a venit peste noi, dar inovația relevantă și inovația puternică are nevoie de contribuția mai mult, care au mare nevoie să fie împreună fizic. De-aia cred că inovația relevantă se întâmplă în echipă și la birou. Și slide-ul al 8-lea, ca să fac un pic de publicitate cât primim întrebări. Cursul de employer branding pe care multă lume îl așteaptă, o să-l țin la Cluj pe 25 iulie și cu siguranță va fi actualizat ca să ne uităm pe cum au reacționat companiile de la noi, în special companiile IT, la această criză. Vă îndemn să căutați acel Excel care circulă pe net. E posibil să fie mai multe platforme pe care s-au adunat informații. E foarte interesant să vedem cum au reacționat companiile și care dintre ele sunt prietenoase cu angajații și care sunt mai puțin prietenoase cu angajații lor. Cam asta am vrut să spun. Vă mulțumesc tare mult. Hai să vedem ce întrebări avem.
Salut, Doru. Da, e foarte interesant Excelul ăla. Eu nu l-am văzut, dar m-ar interesa să văd.
Îți trimit?
Da, poate...
Ți-l trimit, o să-l pun, uite, o să încerc să-l pun pe chat-ul de YouTube.
Ok, asta chiar ar fi interesant, dacă crezi că nu e foarte confidențial sau nu-ți date...
Nu este un document public agregat exact de niște developeri. Deci sunt oameni din IT care s-au apucat să facă asta. Băi, la voi în companie ce se întâmplă? Sunt probabil foști colegi de facultate, prieteni din organizații care s-au mai mutat în altele și au început să pună împreună informații despre ce s-a întâmplat la fiecare în firmă și au făcut documentul public. El a început să circule pe Messenger și astăzi a ajuns să aibă acolo agregate date din vreo 50 și ceva de companii.
Dar
din câte văzute
sunt puse și numele companiilor?
Da.
Atunci nu-l pune, te rog, pe chat, că nu vreau să... E mai bine așa. Okay. Și cred că...
Ok.
Personal poți să mi-l dai să nu-l publicăm prin...
E ca și cum ți-aș da un link de Glassdoor.
Da, nu,
pe Glassdoor oamenii intră și spun lucrurilor pe nume.
Am înțeles.
Ok. Bine, hai să vedem dacă sunt întrebări.
Încă să știi că mă uitam, încă n-avem lume destul de timidă astăzi.
Știi că pe Twitter e normal să nu fie întrebări, că acolo e domnul Trump. Eu nu mă intru pe Twitter.
Am înțeles, da. Bine, sper că pe YouTube să nu fie alții. Bun, dar ce vreau să te întreb? Era chestia aia faină cu... Cred că multă lume lucrează la o aplicație de video communication și eu, să știi că și eu mă gândesc, mai ales pentru IT Day, să dezvolt ceva și ideea asta cu să-l trezești pe om, să-i zici, uite, vreau să vorbesc cu tine, interesantă. Bine, mai sunt multe lipsuri la Zoom-uri și la astea, chiar uite, dacă vrei, citești editorialul din numărul ăsta, s-ar putea să-ți placă. E cumva pe linia asta de comunicare.
M-am uitat în ce ai scris și e foarte adevărat. Cred că, din păcate, oricât de inteligente ar fi platformele digitale, nu pot înlocui comunicarea directă între oameni. Sunt altfel construite și au alte reguli și e foarte important să păstrăm aceste contacte directe între noi. Oricât de bune sunt bune, gândește-te că mai e un lucru. Munca noastră astăzi arată total diferit de munca de dinainte. Înainte n-aveam niciun fel de problemă că suntem 8 ore la birou expuși acelui ecran pe care lucrăm. Da? Pentru că aveam multe întreruperi, multe interacțiuni cu colegii. Astăzi suntem extrem de obosiți de ecran. După 3 sau 4 ore până ajungem la prânz, deja ne-am săturat de ecranul ăla, pentru că îl conștientizăm și îl simțim mult mai prezent și mult mai apăsător pe noi. Asta ne face să fim extrem de reticenți, fără să ne dăm seama, probabil în subconștient, de câte ori suntem abordați online, chiar dacă ne sună mama sau cel mai bun prieten, parcă ne e un pic greață să mai răspundem. Da? Deja suntem foarte expuși la mediul ăsta online și stresul comunicării la distanță ne face să nu mai fim atât de dispuși la a vorbi și atât de available.
De acord, mai ales la partea asta de echipă. Dar hai să vedem și lucrurile bune un pic, pentru că, de exemplu, ai câștigat mult mai mult timp, teoretic. Nu mai mergi la birou, nu mai vii înapoi.
Indiscutabil. Eu sunt un mare fan al muncii de acasă.
Așa. Și doi la mână, s-ar putea, nu poți să fii inovativ într-o companie alături de alți colegi, dar tu, dacă vrei să pornești personal ceva, s-ar putea să ai mult mai mult timp, să poți să meditezi, să te gândești liniștit la un lucru și chiar să lucrezi, să-ți faci tu prototipurile tale. Și din perspectiva asta s-ar putea să schimbe anumite abordări și să devină poate multe lucruri mai individualiste sau inclusiv companiile să dea ownership la oameni mai mult decât s-a făcut până acum, de exemplu.
Indiscutabil, astea sunt unele beneficii ale muncii de acasă. Cred că autonomia este mai mare, delegarea responsabilităților este mai mare și e foarte bine că se întâmplă lucrul ăsta. Da. Este pandemia asta a ucis, pe lângă victime, a ucis un tip de manager, micromanagerul. Și eu sunt foarte fericit pentru lucrul ăsta. Sper că a reușit să-l ucidă sau să-l transforme într-o specie pe cale de dispariție. Șeful ăla care venea să te aia la cap că nu fac treaba asta, este imposibil și asta e un lucru bun pentru oricine lucrează în orice fel de domeniu.
Da. Apropo de micromanagement, cred că fiecare programator a avut la un moment dat un micromanager. Nu cred că există să nu aibă. Nu cred.
Intrăm într-o discuție foarte pe care am mai făcut-o noi la o ediție, știi? Ne punem problema cum ajung oamenii lideri, știi? În general este pus team lead și apoi avansează omul care este cel mai bine pregătit profesional sau cel care
are o greșeală,
sau mai vechi. E un lucru greșit să alegi oameni care doar pe criteriul ăsta trebuie să fie dispuși să-și dedice timpul celorlalți, să îi facă și pe ceilalți să crească. Ori nu întotdeauna omul care este foarte talentat, foarte priceput, un expert în zona aia, are disponibilitatea asta. Poate el e un introvertit, poate este un om foarte profesia lui și să crească pe sine. De-aia e greșit să îi avansăm pe oamenii ăștia și ei acceptă avansarea, știi de ce? Pentru că bănuții sunt mai mulți.
Da, care iar e o aberație, dar hai să nu mai intrăm în detaliile astea. Bine, Doru.
Dacă îi supărăm.
Mersi mult, hai că îi deja...
Mare drag.
Următorul speaker îmi zice că nu mai are timp și că așa îl pierdem. Bine, Doru.
La noi.
Mersi mult și ne auzim și te mai aștept cu alte articole interesante și povestim și de spreadsheet-ul ăla. Bine, salutare, salut. Bun. Okay, so now I'll switch to English and we'll call Corina Stirbu. I hope she's still available for the call. Hi, Corina.
Hello.
We are at the limit with the time, so
yeah, we are.
You have 10 minutes. I hope the presentation that I took it at some point is a good one. It's in English and Romanian.
Yeah, it's the English one.
I mean, it's combined. Okay, so you have just this. Okay. Now you have 10 minutes or until your next call.
I guess I will finish earlier. So
no problem.
Then I think this one it's in Romanian. It's not the last.
It's down
okay.
Here roads, personal data, the new currency, and should be good. Okay. You have 10 minutes.
Okay. So I think, as a matter of fact, I think a proper title would be first-party data becoming gold in a couple of years. But I will go with this one, with personal data, the new currency for customized experience right now. Click next, please.
It's about you, the yellow slide. Don't look at the YouTube because there's a delay.
Okay.
Just believe me.
It's really hard to present if I don't see the slides. But anyway, I'm Corina Stirbu. I'm a marketing strategist. I'm the current CMO of Wolfpack Digital. I've been the CMO of Visitor Analytics in the past, so I know a bit of analytics as well and data. And if you click the next slide, you can see that I've been working in quite a lot of types of organizations in the past, and I have a bit of experience. Going on to the next slide, most of our daily activity is online, and we have higher and higher expectations in terms of relevance and customization. And if you click the next one, you can see that we actually eat, work, manage our things online, we shop, we do pretty much everything from texting someone to finding our partners. So yeah, we do everything. But then again, if you click the next slide, we already want to have even more than the basics. We want to have movie recommendations, music recommendations. We want the web to know everything about us and provide it for granted without us doing too much. So that happens from the language that we want to see to everything. And next. On the other hand, we do not really like giving our emails or data around the web, like there's no tomorrow. So, because we get a bit paranoid. And if we remember Cambridge Analytica, we can have an idea of why. But let's start with the basics, with the famous cookies that we see all around. We just see them, but I bet most of us never actually read those terms, and we just click accept. But if you click the next slide, please. I highlighted a bit of information from each of them, and you can definitely see that we are constantly tracked. We get our mouse movement recorded. We get our behavior analyzed and everything just to have a customized experience. So despite having less trust in brands to use our data ethically, people, especially millennials, are more willing to provide companies with information in exchange for convenience and personalized experience. So there's this privacy paradox if you click the next slide. The privacy paradox is about the inconsistency between customer concerns and privacy and actual online behavior that we actually have. So if you click the next one, why is localization and customization important for a digital product? Especially for, I think, next one. It's really hard to present without seeing my slides. I'm sorry.
You can open them locally and just let me know when to change it next. Just say next and I'll change it.
Okay, just a second. Goodie. Okay, so why is localization and customization important for a digital product? There are 94% consumers who already discontinued communication with a company because of irrelevant promotions or messages. There are 51% of customers who will never do business with a company again after only one negative experience, and around 56% of us prefer a brand that already knows our name. And you can think about that as online or via phone when you call customer service as an example. So people are not really static. Au contraire, they use multiple channels, devices, and their interests change over time. So most marketers and business owners completely ignore this. Somehow they just gather data and have no idea what to do with it. Then they randomly started to gather it and tried to personalize things, but not really, but still gather it and provide it to advertisers. So yeah, this is something that personalization is not a new topic in the offline medium. It's used for a long time if you think about tailors, but online it still has a lot to work. So if I guess we go to the next slide, the one with some money and charts. Okay.
We are there.
Great. So at the end of the day, personalization is about data, and we use it as a currency for better services and products. And because so much data was being thrown around, some laws were also passed. And if you click the next one, you can see that we have quite lots of laws, and there's a lot of legislation around data. Some of them are in Thailand, New Zealand, Singapore, GDPR in Europe, the famous one for us. There's also the Data Protection Act in Great Britain. There is some law in Canada, and quite lots of them in the US. They're quite different. Some of them apply only for certain industries. Some of them apply to a more general area. But if you click the next one, just to give you an example, once these laws were passed, the British Heart Foundation, as an example, you can click the next one, got a fee of 18 pounds because they screened millions of their donors, so they could target them for more money. Or if you click the next one, I just Googled for some fines based on data. I'm not sure how much you can see from YouTube, but there are lots of fines from unencrypted emails, and someone before me talked about unencrypted data, to stolen USB sticks, or all sorts of data. And then again, we still want to have all sorts of personalized experiences, and that's how we work nowadays. So how do we manage this confidentiality paradox, especially as a company? And if you click to the next slide, I guess, I'm going to talk a bit about the principles of managing this confidentiality paradox. And the first one would be to understand the privacy principles and legal requirements, and try to reframe the discussion and action to focus on using personalization and data privacy to enable your customers instead of annoying them with retargeting ads all over the place. The next one would be to recast the relationship between personalization and privacy as symbiotic by defining the requirements for accessing and using individual level data. So asking for information should be more natural and contextualized, not with a huge form where you ask even the number from their shoe or something like that. The third one would be to focus on your customers. Use their data to enhance the experience with your brand and make them more efficient, but still stay in the context. The next one would be to balance and not overdo it. Try to understand that we use the web for work and for privacy and for personal life, and try to understand that we search for different things during the day. So try to meet your customer needs, innovate, but still enforce new marketing and security actions that will solve their problems. And the most important one, if you click the next one with the glasses, would be ethics and transparency. So you build customer trust by establishing the best practices for transparency and try to train your employees on ethical data use as much as you can. So these are the basics to manage the personalization paradox. And if you try to inform everyone on how are you going to use the data, not only with the cookie banner, because that's bullshit, sorry for the word, but to be really clear and use the data to actually provide good experiences, it's a good way. So at the end of the day, if you click the next one, I think, like it or not, there is no other way than using data to improve and customize services. Sure, you can use the data to, you can use the data and destroy it afterwards. You can anonymize most of it. You can use it only for your customers. You can use it with third parties. You can do advertising, but you still need to collect it and to process it. So as a company, it's up to you to ensure that data will become gold in the future and we can use it ethically, or it's going to be Cambridge Analytica related all the time. So it's up to us, as a matter of fact. I have just a little bit more. If you click next, the yellow screen, it's about everything you need to know about your personal data in terms of consent, access, control, portability, or permanent removal. This is basically GDPR in one sentence, and I really tried to focus a bit on it. The next slide should be about consent. People really went crazy when GDPR was enforced, and nobody actually understood how consent is given. But actually, it's like in real life. You have to say yes to something very specific. So when someone is going to ask you, do you want me to do something to you? You don't say yes because it's something. But if they just provide you an entire sentence with what they're going to do, then you can say yes. So the consent should be given with a clear affirmative answer and based on a very specific sentence. And it can be in written statement, it can be electronic or oral. In online, indeed, we usually just tick a box. If the box is already pre-ticked, it's illegal. So that's one thing to know. So the consent is pretty simple. When you say yes, you should know what you're saying yes to. And in terms of control, GDPR basically, if you click next, GDPR actually gives you the right to obtain from each company a confirmation that your personal data is being processed or not. They have to tell you. And you can also ask them the purpose of processing, the categories of data concerned, the recipients or categories of recipients to whom your data is going to be disclosed. You can also ask them to change the data about you if you have any change, or to remove it forever. So you can ask pretty much everything about it and remove it from them. And they are supposed to answer you in around 30 days max, or you can just file a lawsuit. And there are lots of things you can do, but the GDPR law will basically tell you everything. If you go to the next slide, the one with the coffee, I guess it's gonna be, yeah. Which one with the coffee you have? Because I changed a bit the slides. Okay, yeah, that one. So basically the buyer journey is not about the content you produce, it's the experience you provide. It's a conclusion to everything. All data usage and personalized experience is quite similar to coffee. It may be the same raw product, like coffee beans, but the way you prepare it and serve it makes it amazing. So if you click the next one, while telling to your customer how you're going to use the data, or how are you going to to prepare everything for them. Just like in the coffee world, a barista will always ensure you know how they prepare your latte, just in case you may have lactose intolerance or gluten-free diet, or they just prepare it in a nice way for you, using a nice format, or content is the same in the services area, and that's how you customize it. So keep in mind that for your next purchase, that once you do a purchase, you provide your data. It's exactly like in the offline world, but in the same time, it's up to you as a customer and as a brand to keep tabs on what's happening with the data and to hold people accountable for it. I think that's it from me. I'm sorry, I think I went to 12 minutes or something like that.
That's fine. Okay, so, okay, let me see. Let's see if you have any questions, except the Doru's Excel, not too much conversation on the chat room. Let's see on.
If someone has questions, I would like to answer to them maybe later, because I really have to go to a call.
Okay.
I'm really sorry.
Corina, thank you. I was thinking to some question, but I can ask you later. Okay.
Great.
Run to your call.
Sorry.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, and our next presentation will be from Vlad. Usually he's speaking Romanian, but let's see. Hi Vlad, do you want to speak in Romanian or in English?
English, thank you.
Okay, that's
Yes.
good. I was thinking that you are with a with a good presentation, and I was thinking that the language is an issue.
No worries.
Okay, so let me try to put your fish.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, great. So just let me know when you want to change the slides. You have around 10 minutes. Go.
Okay, thank you. So hi guys, Ovidiu, thanks for the invitation. It's really great to be here. Hopefully I will have enough sunlight so that you guys can see me, because I live at the ground floor, so I'm surrounded with vegetation. Hopefully this is not going to be an issue. My name is Vlad. I'm managing partner at Azimut and Updated. I'll talk about Updated because maybe some of you know Azimut. Updated is our micro-learning platform. It's with content in Romanian, and it's done for the Romanian business market and for the Romanian consumer, so it's not just business. And let's say we specialize, me and my team, we're specialized in learning and HR for companies. And we have like a new motto that we're gonna run it really soon and launch it, and we like to think that we make room for improvement. So our goal is to help you guys evolve as much as possible. And going to today's presentation, this is why I kind of wrote this article on LMS, which is learning management systems, because it's really linked with how we evolved as human beings. And talking about human beings and the difference between us and other animals, that's why we have the goldfish right there on the background. And thank you, Ovidiu, for making it possible. And if you click, maybe you can see that it's animated. Yes.
I see now. Okay,
yes.
So the fish is moving. Oh,
yes,
cool.
Exactly.
Now I understand why you wanted this format.
Yeah, it's really nice. It really captivates the attention. And the thing about this fish is that now science says that it has an attention span of 9 seconds. So attention span of 9 seconds. Hold on to that thought, because if you click next, we're gonna see why is this actually relevant. And just three things we're going to talk about, the direction of the presentation of today. Why change the way we learn? This is one important question, and I'm going to tell you some facts about our human brain and how we actually evolved, but it's like with quotes, because that didn't actually evolve in a good way. We just adapted somehow. how does the LMS help us, or the microlearning process help us to keep learning and actually adapt ourselves with our brain's adaptation, and if these LMS systems actually work, or they're just like marketing, or it's just another resource, a platform for resources. If you click next, then we're going to talk about the first topic. So just click next again. So again, the goldfish. Well, remember, the goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. Our attention span decreased because of mobile technology and mobile advancements from 12 seconds before the year 2000 to just 8 seconds. So this means that after around 8 seconds, we kind of lose focus on what we're doing, and our mind wanders off somewhere else, or we just can't concentrate. And this is a very important fact, because this is something that will affect the way we learn. The fact that we have everything now mobile, and everything is given to us at the search button, or everything is really accessible, this actually didn't quite help us. It evolved our brain into making it be more, let's say, efficient. And if you click the next slide, we're going to see why this happened. And this happened because our brain uses the most energy out of all of the other organs in the body. It uses about 20% of the total energy. And in comparison with the heart, which uses only 5 to 7%, that's actually a big difference. And because of this, our brain's main, let's say, main job is to make sure that he uses the less energy as possible, so that we can learn faster. So in shorter terms, the fast way is the best way for the brain. It doesn't have to be the most healthiest way, but it will try to find the fastest way to learn and to get new info. And this is why, because we evolved and have all this technology, our brain just got the info quicker and didn't have to concentrate as much. Click next. Another thing that we should take into consideration when talking about the need for a learning management system and the need for micro-learning, for example, is that in average, we are interrupted every 5 minutes at work. And this is actually quite ironic, because most of the interruptions come from collaboration and working tools. So all the softwares and all the apps that we have, yes, they help us, but because we have notifications, we have chat rooms and all of that, this is constant interruption. I'm not saying this is just bad, this is just a fact of the matter. And we need to evolve and adapt ourselves and the way we learn, so that we can cope with this huge amount of information and can actually retain the information that we get from the outside. If you click next. Okay, we had some facts about our evolution and the brain and how we work. Let's see, how does the LMS help? So if we click next, learning management systems combined with blended learning and micro-learning, so not just a library of resources, but actually content that is made in such a way so it's really easy to access, provides just-in-time learning, because it's online, so it's adapted to your style, and it works on all mobile devices again, and it's always there for you, and that's a big difference. Yes, you can carry a book with you like most of the time, but I don't think you can carry like 100 books to have the information right there. But an LMS, a learning management system, will provide that information all the time. And what's really important is the fact that you can decide when to access that information and use it when you need it, not just have a lot of information in bulk. Okay, click next. Video. Thank you. Okay, another important aspect is that a learning management system gives you user autonomy. What does this mean? Is that the difference between you being sent to a training, like a classical training course, even maybe if you don't consider it that you want that, and the fact that you choose when to learn and you choose what to consume. And an LMS gives you this opportunity. It has a search function, which is really important. 80% of the workforce in Romania and in the world use search as the first solution for a problem in the workplace. The fact that you as a person decide what to search for and decide that you need something it gives this learning management system an increased relevance and usage. So in comparison with classical e-learning or classical training, now you choose, and it becomes so much more relevant. And another fact about learning management systems is that it has embedded chat and social interaction. And maybe as you all know, this is also proven in science, social learning is, let's say, it represents 80% of what we actually learn from work. So 20% we have from training, from our employer, and 80% represents interaction with our peer, with our team leader, with our colleagues, with our clients, and we learn from all of that. And that's how we learn how to apply. And this is embedded in this type of software. Okay, next. Another important aspect when it comes to microlearning and to learning management system is that it's brain friendly. As I told you earlier, our brain's main function is to make sure that we have the fastest, easiest, most economical way of learning. And this is by offering it in small chunks of information, which is called microlearning, and offering it in diverse content packaging. For example, not only written text, you also need audio, video, you need social interaction and gamification, which is also really important. This is a whole package which can be represented in a learning management system. Next. And the last question, does this all actually work? Well, let's see what the science says. If you can click next, video. Thank you. And the answer is yes, it works. It definitely works. It's been proven worldwide. You can find all my references in the article. It increased the quality of the workforce by 26%. So the same work, but being done with a more precise and better quality with 26% more. It's been proven to be 17% more effective than classical training. And I'm telling this because I also practice classical trainings, and I can see why, because on online and LMS, the user is choosing when to use this information, and it's also cost effective, around 50% less costs than classical training, because you don't need accommodation, transport, meals, and all of that. Everything is done online, on the go, with not any other complication. And the last slide. So I would like you guys to remember three things. One, your brain will always find the easiest way out, even if it's not healthy. Think about the time when you decided to play a FIFA game, for example, and not maybe read a book or not maybe do sports. It's because you have let's say, the reward is immediate, and this is what the brain wants. Second thing, microlearning and LMS are adaptations that will fit the new way we learn. So please try to use them. If you dismiss them and say that they're not working, it's going to be your loss, because they will perfectly adapt to your lifestyle. And they will give you the possibility, thirdly, to learn faster, to learn autonomously, and to get in charge of your own development and not just wait around. And I guess click next for my ending slide. Thank you so much. This was my presentation, and I'm looking forward to any questions now if we have the time, or any other time.
We don't have much time, but we still have time for one question at least.
Okay.
We don't have yet. The people are pretty lazy if they're at home, but I have some questions.
Mm-hmm.
So how? Give us an example of micro learning.
Okay.
Like a service or something that we might know, or things like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can, of course, this is why you can find up on updated.com on our website, because on our last presentation I actually talked with my partner Silly about it, if you can remember.
I know.
So this is why we came up with this. You can find content which is made according to the micro learning rules, and these rules say that a video shouldn't be more than maybe 5-7 minutes, so it's really short. And the content is really practical and really hands-on. So the goal of microlearning, and our goal, is to make you learn something new after 5 minutes.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it's really fast forwarding your learning style, and this can also be applied for, let's say, inner business. For example, we're using our platform to offer short induction programs for employees from businesses, so that they can learn fast about the organizational culture, or just to fast track them on educating them, for example, with communication, collaboration, and all of these issues that actually most of the speakers said that this pandemic is bringing. So like a short movie, 5 minutes, and you learn something practical. That's micro learning.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
Sounds great. And I'm looking forward to experiment myself this.
Check it out.
For sure, I'll go and update it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vlad. And
thank you.
Yeah, our applause is, sorry we don't have a room full of people.
It's okay. I usually applaud in my head, so that's.
Yeah. I think in the last event I was having some applauses recorded, but I didn't figure out this time. Okay.
I would I would like to end with one question for you and for all the audience.
Yes.
Think about all of this presentation, and what did your brain pick up after this? So what do you will actually remember after this? Because I guarantee you it's going to be a small amount of information.
Okay. Yeah, I think I remember some stuff, especially the fish.
Great. Thank you so much again,
Thank
Ovidiu.
you, Vlad. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, and our next topic. Okay, we have Annette. It's will be the discussion panel. Let's see what we can do here. I'll need to rearrange a little bit, but let's try to bring everyone on board. So I'll call Annette.
Platform to offer induction programs for employees.
Hello, Annette. Can you hear me?
Businesses, so that they can learn fast about.
Hi, Annette. I can hear your TV or something in the background. If you can put it on mute.
Educate them.
Hi there. I think it's quite of a delay.
Yeah, hi. Let me bring everyone on board. So Annette, you are a security trainer and our lead at Betfair, Romania. Or
yes,
Betfair,
yes.
I know. Where are you actually?
Well, I'm previously from the Cluj office,
Okay.
currently living in Portugal, so I kind of serve all our locations.
I see. So you are in Portugal. And Joao Morais, he's from Portugal too?
Yes, both me and Joao are in the same office now.
Okay, nice. I didn't know. Okay, so let me try to bring Joao on board.
Sure.
Just a second. Okay. I can call everyone. Let me see. Sorla and Călin. Okay, and just a second to add all them, and I'll try to see. test. Okay. Copy. Okay.
Ovidiu, you should try with 210.
Yes. No, so now should be fine. Sorry. Yeah, there is a audio component that from time to time I forgot to copy from one place to another. Okay, so Annette, they didn't hear you.
Okay.
If you can, just for short, just say in a few words. Let's start now. No, you heard on Skype, but not on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
So my name is Annette. I have been with Betfair for 5 years already. I've started off as a compliance analyst, more managing the ISO audits and some bits around third-party assessments. Then I did a lot of other interesting things in the company, a bit of access governance, business continuity. And for the last 2 years, I've been focusing on the information security awareness program. So it's training and awareness bits in terms of how to deliver our message better so people understand why security is important and how to deliver that message, which is quite an important bit of it. So that would be a quick summary and recap.
Thank you. That's very good. Juha, if you want to say a few words from your side, some introduction, please.
Yeah, so my name is Joao Morais. Again, I work with Annette in Petty Power Betfair. I'm part of the application security team, most exactly on the penetration testing team. And so basically most of my day is trying to identify vulnerabilities in our applications mainly, and then supporting the internal teams, development, infrastructure, and the fixing of those vulnerabilities. So explaining the vulnerabilities, making sure that everyone is on the same page, and then that we can get the best solution for those problems. That's basically what I do for the last 3 years for Petty Power Betfair.
Thank you very much. And now let's move to Călin. Călin, we saw your presentation before, but if you want to, and you got a little bit of introduction, if you want to say again a few words, maybe for the new audience.
Yeah, sure, it will be my pleasure. So I'm Călin. I'm working for Interdata Romania as a cybersecurity architect. Previously, I worked for the Romanian National CSIRT, and I would say my background is mostly on incident response.
Thank you very much. And now let's move to Ciprian. Ciprian is an old friend, and he was in more events with TSM. That's why I let it at the end. Ciprian, if you want to say a few words about you.
Hey guys, nice to meet you. Yeah, I'm Ciprian Sole. I'm a Chief Technology Officer at Norlogic Software. We are a product development company founded here in Cluj. And I'm also involved in several startups as also either co-founder or CTO. And also board member for the Cluj IT cluster here in Cluj.
Thank you, Ciprian. So now let's see some more technical questions. So, and if you want to skip, just skip it. You don't need to answer all the questions. So achieving a good security product is really important. So let's see some aspects involved. We can start with the code analyze, and I know Ciprian mentioned something something like this in the article. What special tool are you using for doing some real code analyze?
I think you meant Călin.
Călin, yes, sorry.
Okay, so I actually did this very few times, so it's not my, let's say, specialty in cybersecurity. I remember it was something like LGTM or something like that. It's an open source project. I tried some commercial ones, but I won't speak about them. I think Flow Finder and LGTM, those are open source, and I use them with some success, let's say. But basically, maybe the tool is not the most important thing. We need to have static code analysis, and yeah, it's just one measure we can have, static analysis. But I wouldn't say we will discover all the vulnerabilities doing that. So I may be wrong, but I don't trust that much in this process and in these tools.
Okay, Joao, do you want to add something on this? If you use any code tools analysis?
We do use, yeah. But I agree with Călin. It's just a first measure of security is a scan. It will get you some information, some alarms, but it's a very small measure of security. But we have some commercial products. They're embedded in our pipeline, so they're actually scanning every code that we deploy.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so what about, what is secure and what is not so secure? If you talk about the browsers, which one is more secure, like Chrome or Edge? I know Internet Explorer was not so good, but, if you can comment on this. Annette, if you want to start.
Are you asking the question strictly from a user's perspective, or in terms of how we use that in the company, in the development process, or how we link that to our product?
Well, if a browser is not so secure, then probably you put more effort there to try to make it more secure and take care of it.
Well, see, this is an interesting question, and we quite debated about it, even with my colleagues. I would rephrase actually the question. I wouldn't say which is better or worse. Now, of course, at one point you can compare them, but I would personally not do that. It all comes down to what works best for what you're doing in the company, because many of the products might work for an organization from specific perspectives, but others are not. So you need to understand what is it that you're doing, what is the critical part of the processes that you're building and you're using. Make sure that you have a proper security assessment. You look at those, you get the pen test, for example, or your team actually does that. Or you do a proper due diligence, if that's the case, and realize what are the risks of that product that you're willing to take. So I wouldn't say, oh, Chrome is better than Firefox or whichever, because maybe it's better for me, for what I'm doing as an organization, but would not work the same way for different ones. If my colleagues have any other input, please feel free to comment on that.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Ciprian?
I think contrary to any perspective, I believe Internet Explorer might be the safest one, because it takes you ages to disable all the IT established policies and privacy and security settings in your browser to actually get to do something. And I think the safest apps and browsers and operating systems are those that are providing the security without preventing you to do things, but kind of seamlessly integrated into your experience. Personally, I love the way, for instance, in terms of operating systems, how Apple is handling this and how easy it is to completely forget about the fact that you have to worry about security. Now, in terms of other kinds of browsers, if you want, everybody kind of believes that it's Chrome, probably the safest browser, because it's one of the most popular ones. But if you get down to the specifics, there are many, let's say, either Chrome clones or Firefox derivatives that are more secure than the actual browsers. But ultimately, the level of security of each app and each browser is directly related to the level of awareness that the user has. Any browser, any app, any operating system can be completely secure or unsecure depending on who's actually using it. So, it's not just like in Agile. It's not about processes and tools. It's about people and interaction. So if you have the people that had the right interaction with with security and with security awareness, I think they can work with any browser, any operating system. If they haven't, then indeed you have to control everything through policies and specific tools.
Okay, Călin or Joao, do you want to add something on this, or?
I don't know. It's very hard for me to say. I have a personal opinion, but I'm pretty sure you're not interested in that. I would say that it's not only about the browser, because we as a users, we are using the browser and the browser extensions and so on. And when you come to this, any browser, I would say all are vulnerable. I'm used to read some bug bounties contests and so on, and I saw that all the browsers has a lot of vulnerabilities, and they basically fail when they are put on the test. So I don't have a preferred one.
Okay.
I will actually assess them based on other topics. For example, based on how they deal with the privacy stuff and so on. And when you go on that way, you know which one does things.
One notification that everyone got is the end of life for Adobe Flash. Did you experience any issues with Adobe Flash, or what's your opinion about disable it?
Yeah. So I usually hope that Flash is not a technology used in the application and websites I visit. So yeah, I don't know what to say about it. We have to forget about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it disabled by default.
Okay. Okay, so next, what about the bug bounty event for a company? When a company should consider to start a bug bounty event?
Events. I don't know if you're talking about a proper event where you ask researchers to go into your office and you have like 12 hours or 6 hours or something like that. So it's a dedicated event, or if they're talking about the bug bounty in general.
In general.
But okay. So yeah, just like I said in the presentation, as long as you feel that you are mature, you have a lot of controls already in place, and you have technical skills in your team, you can go with it. If you don't, you better not do it. That's my advice.
When you should be considered? I mean, when a product is really mature, or do you want, a startup can do bug bounty, should do bug bounty?
Your product should be really mature, and also your security team, because you will need a lot of people to handle this, and a lot of budget as well. So for a startup, usually they have only a few people. They are doing a lot of code changes, so it might not be the best scenario.
Okay, good. Yes, Călin?
So yes, I would advise an organization to have a bug bounty program, not even a pen test, if they didn't do all they can to secure their stuff. If they already know they are vulnerable, what's the point of contracting a pen test or exposing themselves to a bug bounty? But you have to do all the stuff that is in your hands, and after that you can do things like that.
Okay, and now we'll go to Annette with a question we just received from our audience, and it's somehow related with Annette. Can you still hear us?
Hi,
okay.
Sorry, I seem to have a terrible connection. It's the second time I'm being dropped off.
Okay, no problem. So really quick, the question we got from Edgar D is, what about phishing websites? Any browser stands out in terms of better security? So same phishing stuff.
Well, again, I think this question goes pretty much into. So it depends on how we view it. One part is the technical side. The other part basically is the awareness. Now, if you ask this question in the frame of an organization, it has I have more answers to give you, to be honest, because we're talking about a bigger infrastructure. We're talking about some powerful tools. You have proper spam filtering. You have the DLP systems, which can help in specific cases. There are other protocols which are enabled. Now, in terms of users, I know that Chrome offers some solutions, but to be honest, my area of specialty would be on the awareness side. How is it that you can do to figure out that is a phishing email? What are the signs that you need to look for on behalf of it? So I think it more goes down to what do you have in that particular email, what do you read, and then have the basic security settings of your computer. Maybe you would have some firewall settings. Some, let's say, home users do have that and have a good antivirus on your computer, and that already gives you a better chance to stand against actually falling for any of these phishing emails.
Good, thank you. And what about AI? Are you using AI in any form in trying to figure out security issues, like learn user patterns or stuff like this that might affect the security?
Well, we don't use AI. At least not at the moment. It's definitely something to look into for the future. What we look at is the data we have. We have weekly reports, we have incidents, and looking into that data, you can see patterns along the way. If it's for example, and I'm speaking now from user behavior perspective, you can even DLP reports are a good source to figure out what is the issue. Is there a period where we see an increased number of people who are trying to send emails outside the company that contain any personal data or anything confidential? And then we can work backwards. It's very important to take that data and really analyze it. Make sure you do a proper root cause analysis. For example, in DLP, you might have a number of incidents, but maybe those incidents are actually purely accidental. There's nothing malicious behind it. There's no issue of insider threat. So we do this at the moment with the tools that we have. I know there are other companies that already look into that, use more psychologists and basically people from that area to try to extract data from specific tools, build patterns. They're actually building a framework and trying to see how all the data that we have can be mapped back to user behavior. What can we predict, and then what tools can we actually customize or build in order to prevent some of those things from happening.
Okay, thank you. And what about, let's move on and let's see, everyone is crazy, was crazy about the GDPR. What do you think about GDPR? It help, or is it just, an extra okay button on every website?
I am a compliance person and I work in security, so I'm going to be completely in favor of it. Okay. It was interesting to listen to the marketing side of that, how to use data to make our lives easier and get better product. That's a valid point, but well, in my perspective, personal data is basically a digital version of ourselves. And not many people actually make that connection that my data that is somewhere in the internet is me in a different form. People tend to be very responsive when it comes to physical threats. You don't want anybody to steal your car or steal your purse or something on the street or rob into your house. The same type of approach should apply to, I don't want someone to break my bank account. But there's a little awareness, or at least from what I've seen, in terms of how to take that piece of this is my personal data and what I need to do to protect it. Because we do use more and more products that are online. We do online banking. We do most of the shopping, especially this COVID time has been very strong on that. And we did see the other side, or the dark side of that also. So we do use them, but there's not a lot of awareness in terms of what that means. People have the tendency of believing, well, that a breach cannot happen to me. No one's going to hack my email account, or I won't get a phishing email until that actually happens. And GDPR basically makes companies makes them build better security products. Now, of course, it depends on how strict you are in terms of implementing those controls, because there's a big list of it. But at the end of the day, if you have personal data, if you don't follow the regulations, and you also know that maybe your security posture is a bit shady, then you're at a bigger risk. Now, that gets down to how much an organization is willing to take in terms of risk. And then if you look at it, if you get into a situation of data breach, there's a lot of money at stake. So there's a balance to take in terms of how much I'm willing to invest in making my security up to that level. But basically, it's a legal requirement. So it should make companies pay more attention to security and not find loopholes and protect more personal data. So I could talk about this a lot. It's a really long topic, but I consider that it helped. And security colleagues already know sometimes if things don't work, you can always say, well, it is a GDPR requirement, and then sometimes it helps get
I
done.
see. Nice.
Not the best way to do it. People should understand the value of security, but it can also help in pushing things and getting them done.
Yeah, but somehow, for on the other point, there are a lot of websites that are pretty static, and I'm sure they don't use any cookies to track me necessary, and they are still displaying that. Just they are afraid to not happen something with them, I guess.
Well, as it was already said, you can always ask about that data, and maybe you can track it further. You can do perhaps some research and find out more about the company, but I guess that is a possibility. We don't have 100% insurance for anything, as a matter of fact. But there is a lot at stake with GDPR. So I tend to be a bit optimist, and I hope that people took that more seriously and stepped up the level of security that they currently imply.
Okay, let's check with the others. Ciprian, what do you think about GDPR?
Sorry. Just like anything good in the world, it can be used for good or for harm, so for good or for bad. And I think the challenge with GDPR and any other similar concept is if people are doing it just for the sake of compliance, just to check a box, just like their users are checking the boxes, it's not good. If they are if they are doing and implementing this with the purpose of, like Annette said, to secure the data, the personal data of the user, and to provide a good user experience. And good user experience also derives from trust and from security and safety and privacy. So ultimately, if you focus on providing a good user experience, GDPR and other regulations should not prevent you to provide a good service otherwise. Problem is that the way these things are actually implemented is faulty. To give you an example, a while ago, before GDPR was even a term, had a platform that was that turned to be HIPAA compliant. HIPAA compliance is something like especially for the medical field usually and is more prominent in US. And we went to the audit and we got the HIPAA compliance, but I knew we had at least 20 flaws that by purpose I haven't documented. I was expecting to see whether or not they're going to be caught, and they weren't. And there was nothing in the documentation that will have shown otherwise. Of course, with good faith, we fixed those things after we got the HIPAA compliance. It was like a social experiment, if you want. But it proved that validation by itself is crap. So if you see a website that is HIPAA compliant or an app is GDPR compliant, don't trust it by heart. You need to understand exactly what they're doing, because they can tell you anything into their terms of conditions, but they might be doing something different. And I have a good friend who's actually advocating quite a lot about GDPR, especially in the e-commerce field. And there were tons of online stores that were GDPR compliant till they were proven otherwise. Yeah. So this information was also recently made available publicly in Romania. So many online stores and potentially other websites that were apparently GDPR compliant failed to prove that compliance. So ultimately, were they providing a good user experience to their users, or were they were faking it? And I believe the answer is clear, right? So
okay, that's a good question.
If you fake it,
it's a good turnaround.
If you fake it, it's
Joao, what do you think about GDPR? Do you agree with Ciprian and Annette?
Yes, I agree with them both. I don't deal with GDPR in my day-to-day work. I just deal with it as a user, more as a user than as a worker. And just like Ciprian said, I try not to put any data, as I'm not obliged to put in any site. I try to use different emails in every site I register, different credentials everywhere. I try to not, by default, I don't trust the site.
Yeah,
and I think that's the right way to go.
A funny thing about different credentials, we were supposed to broadcast this on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And my service, which is hosted somewhere on a virtual machine, which is doing this broadcast, I'm using basically once per month. And this month I forgot the password, so I couldn't access it. That's the problem with the multiple password. Yeah, that the more security you have, the worse experience you'll get. That's the balance that Ciprian was mentioning. The user experience is always difficult to manage with the amount of security that you're implementing. It's always a trade-off. Agree. Călin, would you want to add something on GDPR?
I think that the panel colleagues have said what it has to be said. What can I say? I'm just bored of accepting all the GDPR messages on every website. I think that's a very bad understanding and implementation. Basically, everybody tried to push everything on the user side to make it accept everything, and that's number one of the measure they put in place to escape of the GDPR things. Other than that, I don't think we need GDPR. I mean, we need security. In GDPR, it's, I don't know, something that lawyers are, I don't know, doing these days when maybe they don't have another business to do.
Actually, sorry to interrupt, but one thing about GDPR that is actually good is that it puts a bit of responsibility for the companies that are managing personal data. Because previously, if you were hacked and your data was leaked, you had the excuse, well, we didn't know we were hacked, right? Now, if you own the data, you have to prove as part of the process that you've done due diligence and you've done everything that was in your power, I don't know, based on the resources you had and whatnot, to protect the data. But if you're a multi-billion-dollar company and you find such excuses that we had no idea, you're liable and you have to pay for that. And I think that's the good thing about GDPR. Now, small companies that are managing the data of 100 users and they fail to unregister users from their newsletters, they shouldn't get any big, or at least not a big fine from GDPR, I don't know, auditors or whatnot. But they should keep in mind that maybe sooner or later those 100 users might end up being 1,000, and their responsibility to protect the data is going to be increased tenfold. So that's the importance of GDPR, not the fact that is a set of rules that many companies is choosing to ignore, are choosing to ignore.
Plus, as any standard is actually very fancy legal terms, it takes time to see how you can apply the concept, but apply it in such a way that it actually works for your environment and your infrastructure and the people in your organization.
Agree. Okay, and now let's move on and see, what do you think about security regarding IoT and mobile devices? Călin, do you want to?
What can I say? I can start.
Yes.
I would say briefly that IoT and mobile devices will force us to bring security actually on the device and on the application itself. That's the main theme for the future. Because historically we try to deal with these problems by, I don't know, drawing some imaginary perimeters, use firewalls and new application security appliances to protect our vulnerabilities. I don't know, using static analysis code programs and so on. So we try to deal with security with external systems, external measures and so on. But with a lot of IoT systems and so on, it's about securing those devices and make them security, let's say, independent. Right? Maybe it's my view.
Agree. So basically, you implement the security on the device.
Yes.
Okay. What about the mobile phones? Are the same or?
I think it's the same. In my opinion, mobile phones are more secure than a PC. They already implemented a lot of things. Okay, they are not 100% secure, but in mobile phones you have, for example, sandboxing by default for some sort of sandboxing. I'm not saying that this is a bulletproof for security, but there are security, let's say, concepts and measures implemented in mobile phones that are not in other systems.
I think on mobile the challenges are in a different class of problems, if you want. Not sure if you guys heard about the recent disclosure from Apple, who found out that quite a famous app these days, TikTok, was monitoring and storing clipboard information from the users, which can contain passwords, images, I don't even want to think about, I'm not a TikTok user, but I don't even want to think about what those in, let's say, in their target audience are copy-pasting on their devices, right? And that's huge. It's not even a security breach. It's a data privacy and personal life privacy breach, right? It can be. Not sure again how the data is being captured or how the data is being transferred to the servers or whatnot, but it's not the only case. So I think the challenge with the mobile devices is different than the one with IoT devices, because they are more personal, more attached to us, to our data, to our everything. Going back a bit to the IoT device or IoT security, if you put online any server, so it doesn't have to be an IoT device, right? Just create a new VM on any vendor, right? A publicly accessible virtual machine. In 24 hours, there are going to be roughly 50,000 force attacks on that machine, only to connect through, to the terminal. If you also have ports for a database, and it doesn't matter today, it doesn't matter if it's MySQL, which used to be really popular, or SQL Server, right? Any modern database or any, let's say, more known database is currently exposed. If you add an email service to it, or basically any service that has some data, currently the hackers have the capability to scan it and try to penetrate into the system. So it's not like you have to have your root password safe for that machine. You need to be aware of all the systems that are running, all the services that are publicly accessible, and how somebody can access those, or through those services to access the data that is important for you. And it's extremely at scale for them, because they can bring up machines in minutes. Once they detected the new IP address, it's game time, and they are going to identify everything that it's accessible. So it's not a joke. Interestingly,
maybe it's some big AI that tried to hack the world.
Well,
probably it's an automatic tool.
I would love to be the case, but it's not.
It probably is not the person who put the IP address there, but
no. It's not the person who puts the IP address, because they don't care, right? If a recent situation, I created the new VM for an experiment, and I let a port open so that I can do a deployment, and I identified in 20 minutes from a server in China, on Amazon in China, there was actually a connection with somebody trying to deploy a Docker container on that machine to mine cryptocurrency, right? Of course, I immediately removed everything, wiped out the entire VM, and added the necessary security layers, because it was only a window of 10 minutes between the time I created the machine and actually when I started to to apply all the security gates in place, and I took them 10 minutes to find a machine, to realize what kind of services I use, what are the potential gates open, and they flooded in 10 minutes. So you don't, probably for 3 months, we are going to be safe and nobody's going to find about us. Nobody's going to try to hack us, right? You have 10 minutes stop. And that's how cybersecurity needs to be considered these days.
Interesting. Anyone got any other experiences like this? No?
Actually, comparing IoT with mobile, I would compare mobile with desktop. That might make sense. If every day it goes, you use the mobile for your day-to-day work. I guess it will be someday where, I mean, many people nowadays are able to work from their iPads and tablets, right? So the IoT is a completely different game, and there is no security work in most of them. I would say 90% or 80% are unsecure, at least from what we see in the news and all the research that is being done. Okay. So my advice would be to be very careful with your IoT devices, because almost all of them connect to the internet, and most of them don't need to connect to the internet. So there's actually a very bad posture from the beginning.
And I think can be a good gateway to some other devices. I think I saw some time ago a case like this.
Even a lamp is connecting to the internet. It doesn't make sense. A vacuum cleaner. Why is a vacuum cleaner taking pictures of your house and sending them to somewhere else? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree.
This is what you're dealing with nowadays, and you should be careful, because the security is not being worked as it should in those devices, at least in most of them.
And what about the microservices? Do you think microservices are at the risk or should not matter too much?
I think from an AppSec or application security perspective, it's easy to control a microservice than a full wide application. But from an infrastructure perspective, you get the other side of the coin. You'll get a spread application through multiple components, multiple servers, multiple network ranges. And I wouldn't say, I mean, it has their good things and bad things. I wouldn't say it's more secure or less secure. I mean, in general, I would say it's more secure because it will divide your access, right? For instance, in our applications, most of them are based in microservices, and they don't have direct access to data. So if you actually you are able to hack one of those microservices, you will not get anything from them. So I suppose generally you can say that it's a securer way to go, or architecture.
Interesting.
That's my view.
Okay, Ciprian, what's your...
My perspective on this is that usually you have to, or you will always have to have a trade-off, security versus something else. Earlier I was saying about security and user experience, even though I was mentioning something else, like you can provide a better user experience by securing the systems better, but ultimately security can also come in the way of the user, like to be a small bottleneck. And I've been in situations where actually this was the case. Also, security will most of the time be a bottleneck for the performance, because you add another layer or multiple layers of validation and controls and checks that have to be performed on any kind of communication. But the question is, are you going to skip that trade-off? Are you taking the chances with what had the presentation about the nomadic architecture, a concept that I proposed a couple of years ago? And the idea is that when you're in a controlled environment, you can choose whether or not you trust each other or you don't. If you feel like those microservices have the let's say are being developed and deployed in a way that can ensure native security, then you can be sure that you don't need a huge amount of security between those services. But if you are deploying services, taken from whatever system, and you don't have any compliance or software validation for what you're building, your services might be secure, but your dependencies might not. So one of the biggest, I think Călin had this on one of his slides. One of the biggest threats that is quite emerging is the threat induced by packages, libraries, dependencies that are brought, especially in the, in any, with any technology, whether it's JavaScript, Java, .NET. When you build something, you bring with you hundreds of packages developed by who knows who on this planet. Maybe they are good developers, maybe they are mediocre developers, maybe they have skipped a couple of steps as part of the development, so you cannot take the chance. Or maybe you do, depends on where you are with your company. Are you an enterprise who's a risk freak, doesn't want to take any chance, or you're a startup that can say, well, we have 3 months till they're going to find out about us, right? So depending on where you are, you can decide whether you need more security and you're not going to make any trade-off, or UX and performance is more important for you, or you feel like you're going to have everything, but then it's going to cost more, right? So all these things have to be taken into account, and then you identify whether or not going with one route or another is best for you, and how working with microservices versus another type of architecture is going to be in favor of what's more important for your business and for your product.
Okay, let's now. Okay, so I think that's pretty late already. Let's start with Annette. So Annette, how do you see the future of security in general? I mean, we will go with more standards like GDPR regulations. We will see more. I don't know. We'll have more AI systems. Will adapt by themselves. How do you see this? If you are still with us, there might be an issue with the connection. I'm still having. Anne, we cannot hear you. Okay, Călin, do you want to answer on this?
Oh, yes, why not? As I said, I see the cybersecurity future we have to secure the endpoints and applications. That will be, I think, that will be the future. So we have to secure the devices we are working with: servers, endpoints, workstations, applications, like that. So this is where we should concentrate our efforts in the future, because it's obvious that these systems has the most. I don't know. I'm not an AI specialist. I don't know. I know this is a thing now. I know that people are forecasting that AI will be a thing in cybersecurity also. I didn't have the chance to test it and to see some. I would say to come back to the security basics and secure our web applications, our endpoints. Don't rely only on anti-malware or antivirus, on EDR and whatever it is called. We should just review our codes. And as Ciprian said, it seems that open source is becoming also a problem right now, and maybe in the next years we will talk more about the flows in the open source code we are all using. Everybody is using open source now, and I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but open source has also flaws, and this should be also dealt with in the future.
Okay, thank you. We got also some connection problems, so I hope this is fine. Okay, so Annette, you got back. I was actually trying to ask you the question. So how do you see the future of security? And do you see more regulation coming, more AI? How do you see it?
Wow, that's a complex question.
It's the last one.
For sure, no, because it has so many angles that you can actually look at the problem. I do think that we will rely more on technology. There's such a huge demand from user base and users, us individuals, to have things that work faster, work better. You only need to push a button and not do a lot more of it. So I definitely see an increase in that. Now, that of course comes with other security concerns, as we already discussed in the IoT area. Are they properly tested? My view at the moment is it's such a big pace that I think security got shoved into a corner more like. And I know there are initiatives there. Even ENISA has a guide for IoT. So there are things that are definitely happening. There might be not as speedy as we would need them. Now, because I'm into the human element of security, there are different approaches in companies. Some would say human are the weakest link. And even if that is true, sometimes it can be. I don't necessarily think it's the best way to approach this, but again, very subjective. It needs to be a proper combination, as Cipriano also said. There's always a trade-off, but eventually it's a combination between the tools that you can use to make people's life easy. We need to understand better how our user base is, what are people more sensitive to, and this goes back even to the phishing campaigns. We've been doing it for a good couple of years now, and you always discover new things. You need to understand how is it that they click? Are they tired, and that's the reason why they end up doing some things, and then trace that back and see if you can actually maybe enhance the way some of your tools work to reduce that risk part, but also combine it with how aware they are of what security means and how exposed they are, just because they're using on a day-to-day basis specific platforms or things that are linked to the internet. So I do see it as a combination. Let's try and make that technology that we use work properly, seamlessly, that it doesn't end up giving people a hard time. And there are some security tools that sometimes do that, right? But it also gets down to the element. What I frequently say is, even if we look at the tech side, there are people configuring those platforms or writing those codes. We need to make sure that they have the appropriate knowledge how to securely do that. So it's just it's going to be very interesting to watch this in the next few years and see where it develops.
Agree. Thank you, Annette.
You're welcome.
Joao, do you want to add something on this? I mean, of course you want. How do you see the security or future of security, and if it can be combined with AI for better tools, and also how do you see the standards evolutions?
I wouldn't. I mean, if you had to compare AI with other approach, I think the people will be or should be your best approach, where you put all your efforts, because if you have 100 employees, you're probably going to have 90 that are non-technical, except you're in a software company or something like that. But I mean, everyone is using and will use more technology, and most people are not ready. They don't have the basic knowledge. They don't know how the applications work, so they don't know the basis of their risks, actually. So they don't know how to protect themselves and the company. So I would go more with a personal or specialized training, even if it is just basic training for everyone in the companies, than trying some AI, very sophisticated tool.
Great, thank you. Ciprian, do you want to add something on security and the future of security?
Yeah, I will try. I will try to be really brief, even though it's going to be hard for me. But in the security world, usually people talk about blue team and red team, and I think AI is going to make a big impact on both these teams, and actually also on a third team, the black team, if you want. So for the blue team, I think this is something that many cloud vendors, for instance, Amazon and Google have been, and also, of course, Microsoft have been investing significantly over the past years and use all sorts of smart algorithms okay, let's call them that AI, but it's just statistics and algorithms that are analyzing behaviors and understanding where there is something off versus what it should be. So when is something where there is a spike or where there is something off the charts, that generates a lot of insights which can be used either by their experts or then forwarded to your security team. But that kind of technology I'm expecting to be more and more available once we get back to our offices, actually, to be more present into companies and into company premises. So, of course, there are tools, but they are really expensive tools. Companies that are, let's say, in the small to mid-range don't usually go that far with adopting such technology. They will in the futures because it's going to be much cheaper to train an engine who's going to detect those anomalies rather than running expensive hardware and software into your infrastructure. So this is where I think we are going to see big improvements for the blue team. For the red team, the challenge is that having so much new computing power and so much let's say smart algorithms available is going to be really easy for them to identify things. For instance, out of this whole panel, you, Ovidiu, are the least secure because you're exposing basically a lot of private information. Annette did this at some point, but now she's blurred. But you have a lot of stuff exposed, which you might think it's, I don't know, safe for you to show so on a screen. Okay. But with the smart algorithm, without somebody looking at the screen, if that picture gets posted somewhere, you have a lot of personal information or personal details that can be used either directly or through social engineering, right? And social engineering previously required bright minds like Kevin Mitnick to, figure out how they can hack into your life and get you to reveal a lot of information. Imagine that you turn Kevin's mind into an AI, into an algorithm that is going to completely mess up with your life in minutes. So it's not going to take days to research about you. It's going to take minutes. This is a potential risk. This is where the red teams are going. And then there is also the black team. I don't think there is any reference to that, but I believe the black teams are the ones that are going to use AI with the intent to fool AI developed by the blue teams. So, or to use to fool and to hack into any AI to control them, because ultimately AIs are I don't know, following some patterns and are based on some trained model. So if they find ways to alter that training model, they can do a lot of harm. So imagine if I don't know, things like yes or no decisions, which are simple decisions, right? At some point, they are actually flipped. So instead of getting a yes, you get a no. That can be a catastrophe. You think like it's a binary thing, it's yes or no. But if you get the wrong yes or the wrong no at the wrong time, your life can be in danger. So these things can, of course, are under, a lot of scrutiny. And we don't have to worry that, doomsday is coming or anything like that. But the thing is that we need to be aware of that, and we don't have to think that we have 3 months after we go live to take care of the security or the privacy. It needs to be first. So if we deal with important stuff, yeah, okay, let's deal it from day one, from day -1, if possible. If it's something with very little importance or personal data or very little impact, maybe we can screw security and publish it anyway, because what's the worst that can happen? The website is going to get done. If it's important, then we have to be careful about all our steps.
Great. I think you ended very well. Thank you all for joining me into this discussion. I hope we still have some audience. There are still some. Thank you very much. And see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ovidiu.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure for me.
Bye.
Bye.